Hello there, citizens of the Federation, and welcome back to another episode of State of the Federation. My name is Tucker, and I'm here today with my co-hosts Robert and Joseph. How you guys doing?
Just like a good opera, we always start a little late to ensure everybody can find their seat.
And just like a good opera, we're worth waiting for.
Absolutely.
So we're a space opera?
I don't know where I've heard that phrase before, but I like it. I think it applies.
Okay, that pun was fantastic and underappreciated.
It's really more of a science fantasy.
Actually what's really interesting is science fantasy is a term that is becoming more prevalent in storytelling. And superheroes now are basically science fantasy.
Yeah, all soft science fiction is basically science fantasy, but like all the old sci-fi guys, right? The hard sci-fi guys poo-pooed it, right?
Right.
I mean, Star Wars.
Yeah, but I like the term.
Star Wars is science fantasy. That's
big time.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. You talk about that, you talk about Star Wars.
They have wizards.
Yeah. Well, technically, even Star Trek has wizards.
But it makes sense.
Sort of.
It makes sense. The Traveler made sense.
Yeah. Totally.
That might be pushing it. All right. Well, I see
like
that
you
we
guys
have.
know what a Warfield is.
I see that we have a couple of folks listening in already. So welcome to everybody.
One last point. Can we call Wesley the One?
No. Now
He was supposed to balance the warp field.
He did that. He brought his mom back. He resurrected his mother. Come on, that's great.
Yeah, the exact opposite, right, of what the other one did.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, so it looks like some folks are in there watching.
I probably dropped at this point.
Maybe. I don't know. But we are here today to talk about... Wait. Before we start, baseball news? Anyone?
Baseball news? The Red Sox are cheats.
No one cares.
They don't.
No one with a vested interest in New England cares.
Yeah.
But given the momentousness of today and these rules, perhaps we should not dwell on.
And yeah, people can't skip over this if they want.
Those dingy cellar dwellers over there in their little shack off of Gnocchi Way. Is that what it's off of?
I'm sorry, I can't concentrate because Ida is denying me food.
Oh man! So why are we here today? Why are we live feeding? We're live feeding. I guess we will be twice live feeding with Tucker eating and then this feed being live.
I'm not eating. I can't.
Are we live feeding?
I can't leave the thing to go get food. This would not be the first time I have skipped meals in favor of a tack wing. This would be...
Well, but you're not skipping a meal. You're eating a meal.
No, I'm not eating it. That's my point. I'm not eating it because Ida refuses...
You said she's feeding you, so it's like she's putting the fork in your mouth and moving your mouth.
I said she's refusing to.
Oh, got it.
Basically, she made dinner, which was lovely of her, and I really appreciate it because it's what made this broadcast possible. Because she cooked while I feverishly tried to get OBS working. And then,
nice.
Broadcast possible. Because she cooked while I feverishly tried to get OBS working.
What am I listening to? Okay, whichever one of you is watching the stream, turn it off because I can hear the echo. It's really...
Jesus, Robert, what were you thinking?
I am so sorry. Yeah. How would I ever be that naive? I am not as smart as Joseph, clearly.
Anyway.
It's not intelligence, it's self-control that you lack.
Is that
I lack many things. I would not be a good Jedi. Is that what we're talking about? Did the X-Wing drop new rules?
Can we get if people happen to be watching and can they ask questions? Is there a chat?
Well, there's supposed to be a chat, but nobody's watching according to Facebook, so.
No, I have one. Chris I'm not going to try his last name. Sorry, Chris. Chris is watching. At least he informed me he was watching.
Oh, well, it's telling me that the peak live viewers is 0.
No. Okay.
Oh, well, hang on. That just shot up. Maybe this isn't live. I don't know. And maybe it's just
Chris is sending me a message. Karajewski. Did I get that? Oh, no, Krajewski. Was that close, Chris?
Yeah,
He's going to send me another message.
Did you not?
Yeah. I am terrible with last names.
You are terrible with last names.
Yeah.
All right.
So clearly he is watching. So we have one person watching.
Yeah,
he gave me the quintessential Facebook thumbs up. So I must have nailed.
I think if you guys, like, if you message, let's say if you message me on Facebook, I will be able to see it. Certainly. Wait, no. Maybe not if we're not friends.
How did you see this, Robert?
Chris is direct messaging me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, that's a
We have
workaround.
things to figure out.
Yeah, that's a workaround.
I know there's a way.
Yeah.
Like, you can comment on it, right? Like, I know that. Anyway.
So if you have questions, direct message Tucker.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we are here today to bring you through the new Attack Wing rulebook that was released today. Oh my God, it's finally here. I almost can't believe it.
A long wait, indeed. But here it is.
Yeah.
And they released it before the starter, which is... I was not expecting it, so that's great.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I'm so surprised is they actually have previews of some starter cards in here. They do exist. They're in here. So we're going to get to even preview a couple cards today. I mean, you've all seen them by now, but you get the point. So...
So sorry, I know one person mentioned get to content. The other person said, I can hear you all, but interface is wonky and it's easy to drop out. That's Michael Wells. And then Robert Chest has a pitch for Manchester United. Go Man U.
New England Revolution all the way.
And then Robert Chest has a pitch for Manchester United.
And somebody's streaming it in the background.
I'm trying to get to the comments here.
Yeah, it's really hard. If you mute the tab, like I just can't figure out how you're supposed to look at the comments, you know? But like, okay, but seriously, Joseph, please turn that off. Like, it's really bothering me.
I want to leave it here. Just give me a second.
Oh God, there's so much feedback.
Trust us all, we are professionals.
Oh. Joseph,
okay.
Right-click on the tab and hit mute tab. That's all you have to do.
It was up on my iPad. So
okay.
Oh, you're watching on a separate device. That's what happened.
Just plug something into the headphone jack.
Well, I don't. Oh, actually, that's a great idea.
Oh my God.
Ugh. Anyway.
Okay.
So Robert's so embarrassed when we don't get technical things great.
My face is red, probably maroon at this point.
Okay, well.
So,
I guess
people will forgive us for these types of things because we will get to the content. And Tucker, why don't you lead us into this new rulebook?
all right. So we've got the beautiful cover, which is I think just the same cover. But we're just going to blow through most of the early stuff because it's mostly the same. I think probably the most important thing is how similar a lot of this is. This is really a changes highlight. It's a revised rulebook. It's not a new edition. It's certainly not a new game.
Right. We know the 4 ships that come in it, which is different. The original came with 3. This now comes with the Enterprise D, the Sutherland, the Kempek. Is that right?
Kempek.
Yeah, and the IKS Born.
Which is Duras' ship from Reunion.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like we'll be getting some kind of new Duras.
Yeah, we might even get another Captain Data. We might get a good Captain Data.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I bet it deals with cloaking.
There is one good Captain Data.
The free action one?
Yeah. Well, he's not even an action. I think he's just
Yeah,
placed
no,
a
it's a token. It's place a token for data.
Oh, that is better than I thought. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's first stage.
Right, but I'm just gonna flip through the rest of this here. Nothing. Oh, wait, hang on. Look at that. That's a skill 8 Picard. Guess we're getting a new Picard.
Ooh.
And he's probably not going to be as good as Picard 9.
Well, he's skill 8.
He's skill 8.
Better be one heck of an ability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We also have a different shape mind token, which I think is pretty important because, Tucker, do you believe that this fundamentally changes all minds in the game, or can people use the old mind token?
I think they can use whichever one they want, but this one's probably just better.
Yeah. Well, you think this one's bigger, right? Because you're looking at it compared to the objective token.
Correct. And compared to the little notch, there's a little notch on the right where you can fit it into the back of a ship's base, clearly.
Right, for antimatter minds.
Right. So based on that, I think it's bigger than the original mind token.
Yeah.
It looks like it's perfectly to scale with the objective tokens, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Based on that notch. Like the objective token right below it. So it's 2 objective tokens.
Oh, and Crazy Vulcan, this means you can make mind tokens with a rangefinder because they're not a screwy shape anymore.
And that is true.
Yeah, that'll be sweet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, my position on this is that this is now the official mind token, and that the other ones are being replaced. So, if you play at my venue, go buy 3 box sets if you want to run 3 cloak minds.
Well, that's one way to take care of them.
Nah, that's funny. I haven't thought of that. All right. So we also see down here 3 cards: the Enterprise D, Picard, and Beverly, which we cannot read, unfortunately. Does look like.
Well, are we going through things that are different in order, or?
I'm just sort of doing it page by page and pointing out what I see first. It does look like Picard has 2 talents.
Well, let's just do it in order.
Okay. So what's the next?
Don't you think?
Yeah.
They mention effect tokens and they mention initiative tokens.
That's on the next page.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
we're still on page 3.
Okay.
Well, no, I was done with page 3. Page 3 is like, oh, we can't read Picard or Beverly, but Picard has 2 talents. All right, page 4. Effect tokens and initiative tokens.
All fantastic. They're great. Initiative is wait to be seen, and we'll get into that in more detail.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
effect tokens.
Yeah, you mentioned, Tucker, that all these colors of effect tokens actually did exist. They're going to be a little more prominent, I guess, but like.
Yeah, they were on one of the rules cards with time tokens. I forget which one.
Okay. So they're just sort of. I mean, it's kind of new, right? It's more their prominence is new than anything maybe specifically about them.
I think it also shows us a direction in the game that they intend to take.
Yeah, but it also says, if you look here, it says effect token. Effect tokens are used to help remind players of ongoing effects. So they're not required components, right?
Which is a huge thing, too. I remember at Worlds 2015, there was rumblings that they might actually require you to have the tokens to play.
Yeah, well, page 27, component limitations. They've addressed that, I think, really well. And, I mean, I guess we can jump ahead to that, because it takes 1 second.
Yeah, let me
Which is
go
just
ahead. All right, 27. Component limitations. If players run out of any other tokens, so component limitations: objective tokens, all cards, plastic ships, bases and pegs are limited by the quantities in this game box. If players run out of any other tokens, they may use a suitable replacement, such as a coin or bead, as a substitute. So, Robert, I can use my paper cutout mine tokens. So there.
Oh, that's really interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can. I mean, Fremont is a premier venue, right? So if you want to restrict to actual my tokens.
Yeah, when WizKids refuse to have a regional, we buck the trend.
Yeah, that's right. So okay, well, so I spent I made you guys spend 45 minutes before Worlds going to vendors looking for a bioship dial before we realized that Will had one before the first Worlds.
And the answer was
So-
the answer, in case anybody's curious, was of course that nobody had one.
Yeah, so
I had no mine, didn't I?
you didn't bring them. Well, so you said.
No, well, I didn't want you flying them. I know how deadly you are with them. I even knew back then in 2015
Well,
that to
it
give
was-
you a bioship token was to lose.
So
That- yeah,
hey,
that-
anyway, about
that's
new
what we'll-
stuff, let's talk about this brand new Enterprise D that's been sitting in the video feed for a while now.
I have Joseph. I have a question for you. Can
Go
a
on.
good ship ability overcome a bad dial?
Depends on the ability. So yes, I think so.
Okay. So, because I'm not a fan of the Enterprise D dial.
No, it's a bad dial, and then it's a terrible dial when matched with a 90-degree front arc, right?
But the highlights are this. It's the Enterprise D, as we know her, with 3 changes. Number 1, she's 26 points. That's a big one.
Huge.
Number 2, her bar has lost a crew and gained a tech, which is also huge. So it's now tech, weapon, crew. It's the Voyager bar.
Probably the best bar. That's probably the best bar.
I mean,
I
yeah.
think double crew, double tech gives you more flexibility.
No, it's way easier to convert
No.
a crew to a tech than a tech to a crew.
And not on a Fed
Yeah.
ship. You just put systems upgraded to
Okay,
the
that's a
weapon
good
slot.
point.
Yeah. Although, actually, I guess with Com Station now, it's super easy to convert a tech to a crew, so that happened. Anyway, but the main draw here is the ability, which says, when defending, the attacking ship rolls -1 attack die. Well, hello, shield adaptation. Why, yes, I would like to give -3 to everybody who shoots at me.
That's not nothing.
So, that in mind, I don't think there's anything else new here, except the maneuver dial is now the Hero Clicks trademark maneuver dial.
And there's a new blurb about Captain ID tokens having different colors, and
Was that
So
not?
you and your friends can distinguish between your Picards flying on the Enterprise D.
I really
because
thought-
we all stay canon.
I really thought that was in the original one, but anyway. Admiral tokens and fleet action tokens are now in the start. I wonder if there's an Admiral in the starter, because they have it here.
I think there's not a shuttle in the starter, and there's shuttle rules, and there's not fighters in the starter, and there's fighter rules.
I know,
So
but-
I think they're
Let me hope, okay? Anyway.
yeah.
All right, next page. Page 5. Setup. Is there anything on here? This is mostly
We
the
know Miles O'Brien costs 2 points. Photon torpedoes cost 4 points. A new card called XCOM.
Exocomp.
Exocom, yes. Worf is a Klingon. Such a double agent.
There's another Worf. Because what this game really needed, you guys, was another Worf. Wait, hang on. Michael Wells? Michael Wells has a really good point. So
Items
hang on.
listed in the components. Items in the components list.
Items in the components list. Let's have a look. All right. Rulebook.
One
quick
Admiral
start.
token.
One Admiral token. One fleet action. All right, so there's one Admiral in there.
Worf. Better be Worf.
No. Thank you, Michael Wells. Excellent catch. David, I am using Facebook because I happen to like the integration better than... David is saying we should use Google Hangouts. I am... oh, yeah, it even explicitly says one Admiral card in the bottom. 5 captains! Now, hang on. Wait. This is a thing. Because in the Oberth class, there was not a generic captain. And in the Klingon pack, there was not a generic captain. So if there are 5 captains, those are 5 different captains that can be used.
Well, there's 4 ships, so there have to be 4 named captains minimum.
Right. But there's an extra one, is my point. And since it's listed separately from the admiral card, since admirals can, so far admirals can be captains. There you go.
Right. So I would think we have Picard, a captain for the Sutherland, right? And is that Data? Was he thematically the captain?
Yeah, he was canonically in command during the events of during the events of the Sela episodes,
War, yeah.
whatever they're called. Redemption parts 1 and 2.
Yeah, the Vorn would be Duras.
And then Kempek, assumably.
So we're missing one.
We're missing one. Who's
I
the
mean,
admiral?
two.
Who's
the
the
what?
admiral?
No, I have no idea.
It could be Janeway.
That'd be kind of cool.
I would like
But the
Janeway
admiral's
card.
going to be a captain still. So
Michael, we do know that generics don't appear to be in here, so and I think at one point in the rules we can double check. They're not even a card anymore. You just assume that you have a captain with skill 1. So,
interesting. Who was it? Will pointed out. Will posting as a State of the Federation. Will fix that. Stated that there's also 14 captain tokens. 14 captain ID tokens.
now that's weird because you'd have 4 or you have 5 captains. That's 10. You have the admiral. That's 12.
But the admiral's also captain.
Yeah, the admiral is always also a captain.
Maybe they have generics in there. They're just not counting those as captain cards or something. I bet that's what it is.
I don't know what else they would be though.
So it's 5 captains. It's 5 named captains, a generic Federation captain, and a generic Klingon captain. That's 7, and 2 tokens for each one makes 14.
All right. Well. Oh my goodness. Yeah. David says Admiral Nechayev, and I would love that.
She's trouble. She's nothing but trouble.
Do
Michael,
not bring her near any of my ships.
Michael, I'm thinking that the captain is distinct from the admiral because they're listed separately on the components list. But okay, we've spent way too long arguing about the components list. So let's go on to the next thing.
But they're all new.
Ugh.
And Chris is correct. It works out that there's 8 ship cards.
8 ship
Does it?
cards. Well, yeah, you have the 4 named and the 4 generics.
Yeah. Yep, that would be the point. 8 ship cards.
Right.
Okay.
Anyway, all right, we're getting sidetracked. So let's see.
So page 3
Let's see.
of 32. Buckle in,
Oh.
people.
We've done 5 pages now.
Yeah, we're on.
And there's really nothing on 6 and 7 that
Yeah, there's nothing on 5, 6, and 7. I guess the starting area is. Well, hang on. Wait. You know what? Let's see if we can identify.
Okay, you know what? I'm betting a lot of these cards are going to be leaked, or not leaked, are going to be discussed soon as sort of month in advance spoilers.
I know. But any chance we could figure out what some of those characters are? I'd love that. Whatever. If you guys figure out what the characters are based on the pictures, let us know. All right. Anyway. All right, so the game round. So this is a really big one. In page 8, in the end phase.
Well, it lists the steps you do in the end phase, and it lists the order that you do them in.
Yeah.
Presumably, not numbered, right? But like, presumably, in order, right?
Mm-hmm.
So. It could be relevant in terms of effects that look for whether shields are up, because your cloak, one happens before the other, right? All shield tokens that were flipped to their disabled sides, red, during the round can be flipped back to their active sides, blue, for free. That's the first thing that can happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Then
if there's a card or something that had an end turn effect on a ship that had no shields, it can no longer target cloaked ships because a cloaked ship will have its shields back up if they elect to ditch the cloak.
So hang on. David, going back to the image of the setup, that's almost certainly Miles O'Brien, because I think these are just set up using the default builds. Like, if we go back to the... Wait, I'm going ahead. If we go back... No, because you don't start with Beverly Crusher. That's interesting. It might be Hobson. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're just talking about how the planning phase or the end phase now has an ordered list of how things happen, which I think is good.
Yeah, I think it's very good, and that resolve any end phase abilities on cards as last is excellent. Still, I'm gapping. Someone today pointed out that there was something. It was James. There's something in here that could have been in here that's not part of the list. Did anyone see that comment?
No.
No, I haven't been on Facebook much today.
And David, you're right. That's almost. In fact, I think the image on the card is the image from Memory Alpha for Christopher Hobson, who was Data's first officer on the Sutherland. So it looks like Christopher Hobson is going to be the other captain.
Good work, David.
Yeah, but as going to Joseph's comment and also focusing on James' comment, I think this rule book for me falls incredibly short on what it needed to do to help really improve this game.
All right, well, let's talk about that once we've gone through the whole thing, okay?
Yeah.
So, all right, so end phase. Did we get through the end phase?
Sure.
Great. Everybody start setting your... Oh, no, that's something else.
Yeah, that's planning phase.
Okay, so assigning dials happens in order of ascending captain skill now, and you put it next to the corresponding ship.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Clarity and timing is always nice, but it feels like it's going to add time to the planning phase, right?
I think it's only going to come up if there's a effect that a player plans on triggering, like a lure or faked message, but those both happen at the end anyway.
And actually, I guess it won't be too much time, because what I expect players to do is they'll assign all the maneuvers for their ships, and then they'll say they're ready, and they'll put the first one and just do it at the end, right? So I don't know that it's actually going to be that much of a de facto change. But you're right, for timing and for abilities that may still come, right?
Or any ability that looks at a dial, like Eddington or Wayun. No, Wayun just stops attack. Sorry, that's the mission token, Wayun.
That's right.
Anyways, Eddington. That's my example.
It opens up some design space for them, almost.
Right. Yeah, but I'm guessing he will trigger his ability. I'd have to read him, but I think his ability would trigger, so you may not be able to change some of your other ship styles, because by the time that ship plays its dials, your other dials are already locked. Your lower captain skill dials are locked.
That's right.
Which the other thing, I like that. I like that clarity.
Yeah, I agree. There's no real downside except maybe some extra time, and I'm not convinced that's actually going to be the case. Now that I think about it.
So, Joseph, you mentioned that some of these rules in general came from X-Wing. Will has mentioned some has come from D&D Attack. Do you know where they got this from? Sort of where they gleaned this idea?
I do. It's not from X-Wing that I know of. And I don't think it's from D&D either. I didn't play that as much as Will did. So I think it might be new to this game.
It just sort of brings more order. Anyway, one of the other... Yeah?
So I can't see what people are typing. So
they're arguing about whether Hobson is crew or captain.
But you're monitoring that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm watching it as well.
Oh, you both are. Okay.
Will says
Will just says he doesn't recall it in D&D.
Yeah.
So do you want me to go through these then while you're watching that?
No. I'm keeping an eye on multiple things. I have 2 monitors because it's the best thing ever. Guys, if you don't have 2 monitors, get a second monitor. It'll change your life. All right, so
Yeah.
And Tabletop Simulator plug.
Types of maneuvers is something that we
types
should
of
mention.
maneuvers. Yeah, I was trying to get there. So they finally defined the names of the maneuvers, which are straight, bank, turn, and sorry, what's that next one, Robert?
I'm not wearing my glasses. It looks like a K about.
Oh boy.
About.
Oh boy.
Kabout.
Well, it looks like old man Robert forgot his glasses. So that's a come about, not a
not
K
a K
turn.
turn.
It's a come about. And then reverse is for some reason called full astern, which I've never heard any attack wing player call it ever. But whatever.
It's on cards though. It has actually been referenced in the past.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's what it's.
Anyway, they now talk about speed and they talk about difficulty. Speed is the number, difficulty is green, white, red, which is great.
One thing they do not mention is that it is these are the physics of the game. The templates represent the physics of the game that you cannot exceed.
That's true.
Yeah, they do mention that. So
No, they do
can't-
not.
Well,
The
that would be under the component symbol though, right? Like you can't.
Oh,
you
interesting.
can't-
That's right. Yeah, that
You can't perform a 7 forward if you don't have a 7 forward template. And spoiler alert, there isn't one.
If we remember back to the Ida and Veronica episode, though, there was a heated conversation about what difficulty of a maneuver meant. So this clarification is
Yeah, hang on.
an answer to their prayers.
Hang on. Hey, Ida. They clarified what difficulty of a maneuver meant. Ha! You guys hear that?
No.
She said, "Oh, they got one thing right."
They got many things right. They did get many things right in this book.
I know.
Okay, so we now see the first mention of new initiative.
Yes.
We will wait till page 18 to talk about that because that will be in depth.
Right.
And somewhere around here, I wrote it down when I went through the first time. Next, but I don't know where it is. And this is, speaking of X-Wing, very different from X-Wing. You can look at your dial at any time, and you can pick up the dial of any ship at any time.
It's on page 8, second paragraph under choosing a maneuver. A player may look at their own face-down maneuver dials at any time, but they cannot look at their opponent's face-down dials.
Yeah, so that is very different from X-Wing. Because once dials are set, you don't touch them until you activate that ship.
Yeah. And it's a good clarification. It prevents people from arguing over minor details in the middle of a game.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm glad it's there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, Ida. Will Sanchez says Ida's sarcasm gives me life. What?
Okay. So we are now to the activation phase, correct? We have maneuver dials. We have those all done.
Yeah.
So now we get to activate things.
This is pretty much the same, I think. This is a big difference under breaking ties. When 2 more ships have the same captain skill, the ship owned by the player with the initiative.
I just said that.
Oh.
That was my reference to initiative.
Hey,
Oh.
He's watching multiple things.
Yeah, including my girlfriend.
He's watching multiple things at once. He doesn't need
Anyway.
He doesn't need any help.
Oh my goodness. The point is, ship initiative or faction initiative is gone. Thank God.
Thank God. What?
It was fiddly.
Okay, we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. That'll be a long conversation.
We'll get to it.
All right.
And a heated one.
Okay. Cloaking is, I think, the next thing, because we're in activation phase, and we talk about the actions. So cloaking is now, while cloaked, replace the ship's printed agility value with its printed agility value plus 4. Well, that seems needlessly complicated, but there's a very good reason for it later.
Yeah, this is our first look at replacement effects. And it mentions that, which contrasts with the rule of 3 and allows that +4 to be relevant. And then this is also where it talks about being able to use your cloak dice outside of the combat phase, right?
I actually think that's in the definition of the combat phase. That any attack is defined as the combat phase.
Yeah. Or there's a place where it just says you can use it. You just pretend it's in the combat phase. That's later on.
Okay.
All right. So
But it's in there. Most importantly, Admiral Worf has been dealt with. I mean, not completely, but his greatest advantage has been removed from him. And I think, especially with the rule of 3, we're going to see a resurgence in cloaking.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's the best way. It's the best way to get defense dice. I mean, well, I guess when there's a ruling on Sulu, that will be a big thing. But
right, we'll talk about that when we get to the rule of 3. Okay, so wasn't there something in acquire a target lock?
Yeah, it just spells out that you remove the red token whenever the blue token's removed.
I got it.
So it's just going to clear up the language on cards a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Robert Chess asked the question about the replacement effect in agility. And the best we can explain is that the cloak replaces the printed agility to a number that is the printed agility +4.
Okay, so in other words, the replacement is you replace printed agility with X, where X equals the ship's agility +4.
Yeah.
But X, the point is, X is a single term.
Yes, and as our good friend Dr. Jones has always informed us, X does not mark the spot.
There you go. Very true.
Okay, anyway, the point is, they've also now got regenerate in the rulebook, which is nice. Let's see, so...
Oh, we were target lock. Did we clear up the target lock edition?
Yeah,
the
yes,
clarification of the target lock?
Yes, we talked about that.
Okay.
You just missed it.
I'm the only one still
All right.
paying attention here.
So, this is a big change, page 13, very top of the page. If multiple ships...
The pass thing on page 12.
No, the pass
Oh, yeah,
was
the
in
pass-
the last rule book.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, God, I'm going to go get it again. David?
Don't go get it again.
Why am I not... No, it's like we've had this argument like 5 times now. Like, Joseph, no matter how many times I read the stupid thing to Joseph, he refuses to believe that it's in the rulebook.
Okay, let's rephrase it this way. They have clarified it and brought it into full light.
It literally...
Such that it should be clearly passed.
No, it literally is the exact... I think it's the same wording.
Maybe
What
not as
page?
highlighted. It definitely does not come after regenerate in the old rule book.
What
That
page
much
is
is
on in
clear.
the old rulebook?
Okay, let me get it. Hang on.
Oh, God.
You know
Okay,
what?
while he's doing that combat phase.
Well, Robert, it's your show because I'm getting my rulebook too. One
Yeah.
sec.
Oh, God. Okay. So while we have the rule book fight going on, the combat phase is basically staying the same.
Okay.
And one of the things that the original
all right.
rule book did well.
Here we go. It is on page 12, immediately under the acquire target lock example. And it is phrased exactly the same, except they have debolded pass.
Will is laughing at you, Joseph, and Michael Wells agrees with Tucker.
And Chris
Well-
Kaczewski has also found it on page 12.
Let me tell you, we all have one now. Then, so far tonight. So that was mine.
That's true.
That's
That's fair.
I just
All right.
did that so you guys would feel better.
Sure,
You
whatever
were
you say.
testing.
I'm also...
You threw us the easy one.
I'm gonna keep
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep the old rule book out just in case we need to reference it again. So just in case I have it here, because
Oh,
what I really needed
I've
right
got
now,
mine too.
what I really needed right now was another thing to look at. So, oh, by the way, or we'll talk about that during initiative. Anyway, so combat skill is highest to lowest, just like or combat phase is highest to lowest. Ships that have initiative shoot first.
Same with ties. Ships at a tie, simultaneous rule attack happens, and they changed the winner. Correct? If there's a simultaneous attack that ends the game.
Yeah. Hang on. I can't find it. Where is it? Here.
Page 17, I think, is
Page
where
17.
simultaneous attack rule.
Yeah, it's winning the game, isn't it?
Yeah. Here we go. So when only one player has ships remaining in the play area, the game ends and that player wins. If playing a mission, refer to its victory conditions. So actually, OPs with victory conditions now are officially codified in the rulebook through that. In the event that all remaining ships are destroyed at the same time, the player who has initiative wins. So, if you get simultaneous fire doesn't even matter.
No, if a destroyed ship has an ability that triggers when it is hit or destroyed, and this ability destroys all opposing ships, then the player owning the ship with the special ability wins the game. That was the same as before, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought Tucker just said the person with initiative wins the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then right under that it says exception.
If a destroyed ship has an ability that triggers when it is hit or destroyed, and this ability destroys all opposing ships, but that's like I stab at thee.
All right, that's the will bill from 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, we can read that ability, we think, and we'll come back to that in a second. But here's the thing, right? Simultaneous attack rule. They changed it. Hang on. I'm confused. Parse this for me.
So one thing that is changed.
Hang on. Parse this for me. Although ships perform their attacks one at a time, ships with the captain skill equal to the active ship's captain skill have the opportunity. Oh, if such a ship. Oh, I missed that. I missed the word such, and I thought they changed it to D&D style.
No. One good thing though is because the change in initiative is it's no longer the faction order that determines which ships fire. So if all my captains have the same skill, then I can choose which ship regardless of faction fires first.
But I think my problem here is, okay, so let's say I have I don't know a Vorcha and you have an Enterprise, right? And they have no captain, so they're the same skill, right? And you destroy my ship, right?
Right.
And I shoot back with my simultaneous attack, and I destroy your ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
So both our ships leave at the same time, and you have initiative, so you win.
Correct.
So my simultaneous attack doesn't even matter.
Correct.
So,
but if your ship had Tasha Yar, Mirror Universe Tasha Yar, and blows up and then kills my ship, then you would win.
Right, but my point is, unless you have I Stab at Thee or
Tasha?
Yeah. Then you just lose. If you don't have initiative, you just lose.
Well, good thing initiative doesn't bounce back and forth every turn.
I think it's great that it bounces back and forth.
Well, let's before we talk about that, there is one more thing I want to talk about on page 16 that we almost just went right past, which is
just before you get that, Ryan Thorne made a comment with Cloak, a red must be removed. That's new. I'm not exactly sure what he's referring to, so maybe he can clear that up, and then we can talk about it.
Well, in the meantime, Robert also says, yes, simultaneous attacks would matter for fleet points. That is correct. That is true. That is the one time it would matter. But if you're taking the loss, I guess it would matter if you were like XO and it was the last match of tournament with a cut. I could see that. All right. I'll give you that, Robert. All right, so on page 16 is Kempek's Attack Cruiser. I think I can read this. It has the Vorcha stat line. It costs 25 points. That's for sure, and that's huge. But I think the ability says action, target all, that either says cloaked or docked, and I'm going to guess cloaked. Friendly ships within range 1 to 2. Place a something token beside all target ships. Well, that is a circular symbol. Is this Incha? Is this Incha every turn? Or not Incha, defense condition 1, yeah. That's insane.
Everybody gets battle stations.
That's definitely the most powerful ship ability in the game to date, I would say.
I think that's the Enterprise A, actually, that has the most powerful ship ability.
It's not even usable, really, anymore. But.
That's correct. So, this is... And it's on a Vorcha. And it's on a Vorcha, right? Like,
yeah.
This is nuts.
Yeah, that ability is...
Robert Chess says that the ships must be cloaked, but it's the initial combat round, right? It's that first round of combat, so all your ships will be cloaked.
As long as you have your highest captain skill on the ship, then you can recloak them every turn, too, right?
Well, no, because all the ships are cloaked, even if they fire, because the cloak token is just flipped over.
Yeah, but I'm saying they fire, then they uncloak, then the next turn they all move and cloak again, and then the ship moves last because it's got highest captaincy, and gives them battle station token.
Ryan, that can easily be avoided by having like Lursa and Betor as your captains. Though that's a bad idea for reasons we're about to see. But my point is, this is, I mean, at the worst, at the absolute worst, this is a generic Vorcha with a 2-point defense condition 1 built in. Because you use it once and you never use it again.
Generic Vorchas are 26.
Not anymore, clearly.
Yeah, but I mean, it's even cheaper, right? So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I think so. Based on what we've seen thus far, okay, a generic is not going to be less than 2 points cheaper than the named version. So everything we've seen thus far has been 2 or more points cheaper. So I'm assuming a generic Vorcha is 23 or less. Does that seem reasonable?
Hey, can we build a Galaxy Swarm with the card from the Venture that gives all the Galaxy ships bonuses?
Well, you could build it, but if Vorchas are 23 points, it's going to get cut to ribbons by a Vorcha Swarm.
Well, I mean, forget a Vorcha. No. Forget a Vorcha Swarm. Vorchas have 5 hull. 23 points is the magic number you need to run 3 Vorchas and 3 fighters.
Yeah, still not a fan of that fleet.
That's a lot of attack dice.
That's a lot of attack dice.
It's a lot of ships to move.
Oh my god!
It is.
Oh my god, guys!
And to keep in range.
Listen.
Agreed.
If it's any cheaper than 23, you could run Kempok's attack cruiser, 2 generic Vorchas, and 3 fighters.
Can you run it with the Romulan fighters that cloak to give them battle stations?
Oh, jeez.
You can, because you can't give positive abilities.
You can't. Yeah, that's right. You can't use your. Yeah, that's we'll get to that. That's there. Okay. Let's keep going.
So we did simultaneous attack, right?
We did simultaneous attack. So the next thing on our list is fleeing the battlefield. Why is that on here?
I don't know. Is it worded differently?
I don't know.
No, I don't think it is.
Let me look at my rule book. Simultaneous attack rule.
I guess it's certainly different is the mention of a mission overview. So
no, that's in the original.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Why did you put this down here?
Good question.
I think it was. We were doing this very quickly today. It was probably something he scanned over.
That's true.
So, yeah.
I think that's why Pass was on here. Like we did not have a lot of time.
We're learning as we go.
Yeah. I really hope this stream
fun fact, everybody.
I really hope
we're actually reading this as we do this.
Yeah, I really hope this stream works because, well, I skimmed this earlier. Like, It came out at like 11:30, and I usually take lunch at 12, so I had time to look at it a little bit. But anyway, all right. Well, whatever. We don't care about that. So, why is fleeing the battlefield here instead of initiative? Initiative is on this page.
Maybe
Yes.
Joseph was trying to keep his mind away from the new initiative rule.
All right, whatever. So initiative has a lot of changes. The only thing that's really the same is you roll off for initiative unless one player's underbuilt, in which case they get initiative. And oh hey,
For the first round.
dude, Lon's watching. Hi Lon. Anyway, but you get to only
They
get
start.
you
They
s-
start with initiative. They don't get initiative.
They
Did
s-
you say mom?
Lon.
Yeah, but I heard mom.
That's well, you're
I know,
hearing.
it tickled.
Yeah. Anyway, so initiative. You start with initiative, right? Couple changes. First of all, ships in the activation phase with initiative activate last,
Which is great.
which is great. What is not great is at the end phase, you pass the initiative token to the player on your left.
And I'm okay with that.
I mean, I get it. Like, it bounces back and forth, but, like...
I think it solves problems that they had with people trying to make an initiative, which should be a minor issue in the game, into a more significant component of the game.
Lon says we summoned him because he heard 3 Vorcha plus 3 fighters.
It's like the Babadook.
That's pretty good.
So for those who don't know, Lon Porter very famously ran a 2 Vorcha 2 fighters fleet in Origins 2016, made it all the way to the quarterfinals, and God bless him, he flew that fleet right into the maw of inevitability.
Yeah, with Ben's defense bill.
With Ben's
But-
Proto Coronox, yeah.
Yeah.
Lon's arrival and that joke has calmed me enough not to bite Robert's head off, and so I'll give a more measured response in Lon's honor, which is that Robert perceived that as a problem, and it's ridiculous that he perceives it as a problem. That's my measured response to that comment.
I think what they saw is something that they anticipated people would, take 1 to 2% of the game energy and focus on, and that got boosted up to 5 to 10%. And that's not what they wanted the game focused on, was initiative.
No. But here's the thing. Initiative, this is another important thing. Initiative comes into play at any point where 2 or more players want to activate or resolve anything at the same time. Unless otherwise specified, the player with initiative must resolve all desired abilities, effects, etc. before their opponent resolves any. Anything that's reactionary, such as an attack-canceling effect, may supersede this rule. So, this is really important, because now we have an order for who gets to deploy the shuttle before Cloaked Mines, right?
Yes.
Which is great. That timing is great.
I mean, that just saved us 10 minutes in the World's Championship match earlier this year.
But
Or no, that was argument about what happens when you drop a shuttle into Cloaked Mines.
that
You get the point.
could have been used with the old style of initiative.
Right, but again, I think the old style was so finicky.
Well, now initiative is more of a factor, not less.
But it's less planning, and it's less of a factor because you know who's going to. It's consistent. No matter what game I go into, it's
Robert,
consistent.
it's more of a factor. Joseph, tell him the thing we were arguing about when I was driving home. The thing about warp jump.
Well, it may. Okay, so that I've mentioned that to Robert as well. But the end part of so I guess I have to start the conversation at the beginning to make this point, which is that because captain skills are going to more likely be tied now because there's a cap.
They'll be bunched. I think we'll see them bunched, which will lead to more ties. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to see we're going to see this initiative rule come into play a lot. And obviously moving second, if you have a movement-based fleet, is way, way, way better. Because you can see where their arc is, use Sensor Echoes or Admiral Forrest or something to get them an arc and get you an arc. So there is some strategy, very limited in my opinion, to now figuring out where the initiative token's going to be on the first engagement. But this is not a game where you can easily retreat your ships. So you have initiative the first round, you plan that out. Then the second round, initiative's just going to your opponent, and that's their advantage, because it's not like you can withdraw and then re-engage 2 turns later, other than the one card that really allows you to do that is Warp Jump. So now this version of initiative has made Warp Jump more powerful, which is excellent, because
and
give a boost to an underused card.
It also, God damn it, it also makes attack cancellation more powerful, right? Because you can just cancel the attack when your opponent has initiative and then attack them the next turn.
Yes.
Well, you'll still get simultaneous attack. Real fast, Lon Porter said these. It sounds like these are derived from D&D. According to Will, they're pretty much taken directly from D&D attack.
And which is, it's a better fit for D&D because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lon, if you're listening still, but all the creatures there had a set level that acted as their captain skill, and they hadn't introduced things to change it. So ties were not necessarily that frequent unless you're using the same unit type, right?
Yeah,
like the same creature.
Yeah, but I am. He says yes to you as well. But going back to our issue of the captain skills and ties, I think what this does is it forces people now to start trying to get negative effects onto captains, right? Using Deanna Troy's, using stalking modes. So let's try to break those ties. Let's find new. If ties were so prevalent, let's find ways to fix those ties.
Well, the initiative rule doesn't do that. The rule of 3 does that a bit.
Well, no, but if you're so concerned about the initiative, if that is the thing that drives you crazy, fix it. Play stalking mode. Play Deanna Troy. Play Madrid. And I know you want to play Madrid. Play Arturus. Play things that reduce your opponent's captain skills.
Hilariously, Arturus is worse now. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. But I think what you're looking at is something that's a negative, and I'm saying you can take this and make your fleet better because of the rule of 3, because of this clustering effect that we're going to have with captain skills. This means if I make your skill captain 12 down to 11, that's a huge advantage for me.
It's not more of an advantage than it was before, though, right?
But because you're highlighting this as a concern, which I don't see, I think you're now incentivized more. There's more opportunity cost and more value to you to try to decrease my captain skill. And yes, I agree with Will. Everybody should play Madrid.
Well, he's not that playable because of the timing thing too. But okay, well, I guess I don't completely disagree with what you just said, other than my concern, which I have with most abilities, which is that it has to be better than a target lock and a battle stations
right
together, right? So like,
but it is now. Because it clearly is, because you're able to correct what you perceive as a negative in this game now with this initiative,
right,
or at least a negative in where it was. Now there is value.
So can I also jump into this scrum, Joseph? You say it has to be better than a target lock and a battle stations, right?
Well, that's a general.
And that's
Let me finish. It only has to be better than a target lock because Deanna Troy will give you the battle stations.
What do you mean, Deanna Troy?
Because she gives you a battle station
when you use her ability. Yeah.
When you disable.
And you're going to use her to disable their captain.
I mean, I think she and Madrid are the two most commonly used gankers, captain gankers at this point. And Madrid, I think, is easily worth a target lock and a battle station because he instantly gives you fleet points, right? Like, you kill that captain, You kill that captain, and he instantly gives you the thing that determines victory.
So I'll just go down this rabbit hole a little deeper to address those 2 points, which is that it's not worth a battle station and a target lock. And so if you have an initiative in the first round of engagement, right, and you're going to use Admiral Forrest to do a maneuver that's going to get you out of their arc and then correct, right? If you're now using your action to deal with their captains, right, then you can't Forrest.
Well, no. If you can,
So you've lost.
If you can get out of their arc, you don't use it. You use it for when you're in their sights and they're in yours.
Right. Which okay, but
Right. So you're just choosing a
maneuvering
different
fleet.
ability.
Right. Well, you're playing a different game because it's not a maneuvering fleet anymore. It's a jousting fleet.
Right, but like, why were we assuming it was a maneuvering fleet in the first? Because you're Joseph, and every fleet you run is a maneuvering fleet. Okay. Anyway,
and that's what we were talking about when I brought the issue up. But I guess also there's a lot to like in these new rules. For me personally, the initiative system is something to be hated, and I think it's a real shame that they took out a really elegant strategic and tactical system and replaced it with something that's way fiddlier. It's going to take up more time because people are going to be attacking different. Like it just gives us less game time to actually play the game now too, right? Because who attacks and moves is going to change from round to round, so it's not going to be as smooth, right?
maybe I don't know.
That's not maybe. That's correct.
Yeah, I see. I think there's two things. One, I think there is where the game was and where WizKids wants the game to be. And what they did is they looked at how people use the old rules and said that's not how we intended people to play the game. And so they're now, with this rule, they're saying we don't want people so hyper-focused on initiative because that's not where we want people's energy spent.
Who was hyper? What do you mean by hyper?
Well, clearly you
on
were.
initiative? Well,
We've had this entire conversation illustrates how hyper-focused you were on initiative.
no, in the shipbuilding part of the game, but in the playing of the game, it doesn't take up any.
It did get a little difficult. And I've had to track before. I'm like, okay, you have Fed ship, I have a Klingon ship, you have a Romulan ship, I have a Borg ship. Right? Okay, so let's go down this ladder of attacking.
But once we got the ladder down once, it didn't really change.
But it also slows down combat because now you can attack with all of your ships, and then I can attack with all my ships that have this tie factor.
I don't think that speeds it up or slows it down. You think it's faster for you to attack with two ships and then me to attack with two ships than one?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So
between clearing that, switching that.
I mean that I'm not sure I agree, but I feel like our pros and cons are very fringy at the moment.
So can I mention, or you know what? I guess we'll mention that when we get to it. Well, I just want to mention it now because Lon asked any news on odd secondary firing arc stuff. So for some reason, rear firing arcs were renamed to secondary firing arcs, but we found out what that weapon was. That reason was today because Steven Van de Venner posted a picture of a ship with a 22-degree forward-facing secondary fire arc. So now we know why they made those changes.
Which is cool. Which is very cool.
Which is cool. The answer to your question, Lucas, is no. This initiative does not balance the Gen Con ability because of another rule.
Oh yeah,
we're
it does.
talk about.
It completely it lessens. It doesn't. I don't think he said balances. Well, I guess he did use the word balance, but I think it lessens his ability.
It makes Gen Con worse, but Rule of 3 makes Gen Con better, I think.
I think Rule of 3 makes Gen Con because of female Q. We'll talk about this. Talk about this. Okay, so moving through a ship. To execute a maneuver through another ship, the player should hold the maneuver template above the ships and make their best estimation of where the ship should end its movement. Then they pick up the ship and move it to its final location. Both players must agree on the ship's final position and phasing. This is asinine.
No, I love it.
This is the same,
Huge
actually,
fan.
too.
No,
I just double-checked.
It is? Really? So that entire time, even in like Worlds Finals, where we were marking and removing, we were doing it wrong?
That's correct.
Wow. I love this rule. I wish I've known this rule all the time. Largest time sink in so many games
What do you know?
is moving ships out of the way.
But we lose precision!
But this game isn't a game of precision.
Well,
It's a game of human error, right?
that's true.
How many people push their ship forward to click into the notch of the template rather than pushing the template back into the ship?
All right. Look.
And given that swarms are likely to become a thing, I'm all for this.
I guess that's true, but
we need to save time.
I will object. I believe in precision. I believe in instant replay in baseball, and I believe in marking. Thank you, Robert. Robert Chest is with me.
Yeah, this is not a game that's been designed to be precise. If you want that, we should have millimeter rulers out there.
No, but
right? We have a freaking unmarked range ruler.
And I think that in a elegant, old style 3-on-3 match, if you marked it, I don't think that's obviously we've been marking it all this time, right? They were marked at Worlds, so no one's going to stop you from marking them. But if there's swarms, best estimation, right? And let's actually try and get some combat in.
Yeah. Lon Porter makes the point. Try playing against an 8 tie list in X-Wing. Good God.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we'll get to 8 ships.
No, they have 8 tie swarms in X-Wing.
No. I mean, in Star Wars, in Star Trek, we're not going to get to 8 ships.
We could. Somebody's going to run.
Okay, well, yes, we could.
Somebody's going to run. Somebody's going to run the 8 Samra list. I mean, that gives you more than 40 points to play with.
X-Wing has 75 minutes too.
That's true.
And
And
they don't have.
I think that's going to have to be addressed.
All right,
we talked about this before.
They don't have a huge time sink for initiative now.
Let's move on. Okay, so upgrade.
So just to be clear, I was right about initiative, and I was right about how the movement improves the game. Okay, we can continue.
No. So upgrade restrictions. This is on page 20. They tell us what all the icons mean, except hilariously, they don't tell us the one that gives. They don't tell us the one that people have argued the most.
No, because that's later. We talked about this. That's because that's in unique
squad.
symbol.
That's in squad building rules. But it's funny to me that they're all here except the one because you only use any of these during squad building.
I'm going to disagree because look at the torpedo fuselage. The unique symbol is actually above, so 8 is different than 9. And so what they're listing here in the upgrade restrictions, that's 9. That's that list on 9. Where the ship unique versus pure unique, that's number 8.
Okay, all right.
That's a good point.
That's fair. All right, I'll buy it. I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah.
So we've got.
But we.
Okay, no, listen. Ship class now matters as well. The little symbol. What was that ship? What was the ship with the misprinted ship class?
It was a Vulcan ship, I believe, that had the Diedrichs on it.
Well,
So,
it can
The
take.
misprint. The misprint was a Diedrichs.
It was a Diedrich symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Diedrich symbol.
So it can-
Well, that
There's
Vulcan
nothing
ship can
wrong.
take the Mirror Universe
Main
weapon.
disruptor batteries.
Yeah.
6 die Vulcans. Yeah.
That's actually good. That's actually pretty good.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. They say the ship class icon, not the ship class. Why couldn't they just put the ship class?
Because the ship class icon on the upgrade, Robert, doesn't tell you what class of ship it actually is.
Yeah, but it says it under the name.
Okay, Robert.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm
Yeah.
on board.
Yeah.
I'm on board.
Okay. So most of these are pretty straightforward. I don't really think we need to run through any of them.
So one interesting thing is on the Dreadnought, we saw the forward arc and the reversed arc, right? We saw both. And so I'm curious if something is how that's going to work, if we're going to always have both of those symbols.
No. So think about the Thoron shock emitter. So there is, spoiler alert, it's mentioned later on, there's a symbol for 360 arcs. So the Thoron shock emitter doesn't have any of those. So what does it mean? It means it can only be used out of a primary arc, but Borg don't have primary arcs. So weapons that don't mention any arcs at all are the only ones Borg can use.
So all weapons are going to have these symbols except for ones that can be used by 360 ships.
No. So what this is doing, okay? Just pretend that if you look at torpedo, hey, we should read torpedo. How do you say this? Fusillade.
Yeah.
Torpedo fusillade. It's a unique.
I'm just gonna pop away for a second, guys. Don't go into the timing until I get back. So
Sure.
do
Okay.
torpedo fusillade though.
So torpedo fusillade says it's a weapon upgrade, Klingon, range 2 to 3, star power, star points. It says the cost of this weapon is equal to the ship's primary weapon value. The attack value of the ship is equal to the primary weapon value. Attack. Remove this card from the game, not discard it. Interestingly, and target all opposing ships.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So the point is here. The point is here. It has a forward icon, right? So that's like if I go to Utopia, I need to find an example. I think it's like one of the Gorn weapons or something. Primary arc, primary firing arc. Yeah, that doesn't.
So what are you looking up, Tucker? Or what are you trying to provide an example of?
Firing. Just a weapon that can only shoot out of. Okay, so here we go. Here's the thing. Matter antimatter warhead, which I think is also from the Dreadnought, ironically. So this says attack, do a bunch of stuff. It's a terrible weapon. You may only fire this weapon from your forward firing arc. So a Borg ship can't equip that.
Right.
That's what this symbol
we agree.
means.
That was a long way. That's a long way to get to us to agreeing. But yes, I don't think, or to identify that there's no confusion about this.
I thought you were confused about this.
Nope. I was just reasserting what you're saying.
Okay.
I was repeating what you're saying in a different way.
Sure.
But I love this card because it's a great anti-swarm card.
Okay. Yes, it is a good anti-swarm card. It's a good anti-fighters card. It doesn't require a tire. I mean, it's neat on like, I don't know.
It's very similar to a breath weapon from D&D Attack Wing 2.
It is. It's true. So are you back, by the way? Can we move on to?
Yes.
Okay.
That was me being back.
Okay, so this is actually an important one. Card ability anatomy. Basically, it works exactly the way I said it did. You have timing, costs, and conditions and effect. So timing is always bold capital letters, so planning phase. The costs and conditions immediately follow the timing. After all ships have chosen their maneuver, discard this card and target 2 opposing ships. Finally, the effects of the card is listed below the timing, costs, and conditions. They're reading off the text of Deanna Troi, which is planning phase. After all ships have chosen their maneuver, discard this card and target 2 opposing ships. Look at the maneuver dials of the target ships. Then this ship may change its chosen maneuver. The target ship's maneuvers may not be changed for the rest of the game round.
Okay, so this is what's interesting about her, is if my captain skill that
Hang on. She's range 1 to 3. Go ahead.
Okay. So if she's on a ship that has a captain skill that's lower than your 2 ships, I have to place I have to place my dial for her first, right? Before you placed your 2 dials, because now we have the whole dial placing order, right? So when would her ability? I guess it says that after all ships in
After,
never mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so, secondary arcs, we talked about that in answer to Lon's question. So, timing. Joseph, this is your baby.
Two small paragraphs, 2 very small paragraphs, 1 dramatic change.
Yeah, big changes. So worth reading. First paragraph, unless otherwise specified, effects, abilities, etc. that specify a phase, step, or time to activate in can only activate at the beginning of the specified phase, step, or time.
Now,
So
hang on.
Hang on, let him read the second. Let him read the second paragraph.
No, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. No, what were you going to say, Joseph? What were you going to say?
I was going to say that combined with the part of the initiative rule that I like, that the player with initiative has to resolve all their effects before the other player does, gives us basically a timing to activate every effect that we could want, right?
Right.
When shuttles launch, when cloak mines are placed,
Now,
all those things. When lure is used, and is super relevant for lure, because if you have initiative and you choose not to use lure, and then I lure your ship, you cannot go back and use your lure.
Right.
Yeah. And here's another one, by the way. This results in very interesting changes to a lot of cards. For example, Mirror Mr. Spock says...
Oh, stop. Before that, it fixes Copilot.
Yes.
It certainly fixes
If you think Copilot was broken, which I did.
Copilot says during the combat phase, so now it's moved to the beginning of the combat phase.
Actually, I'm not too sure about that, simply because you can't re-roll a die at the beginning of the combat phase.
Well, this goes into the second paragraph, though, doesn't it?
No.
Is Copilot in Space Dock?
Yes, Copilot is in Space Dock, yeah.
I think that it either breaks Copilot and now only the token abilities work, or it works the same way it always did.
I thought there was something about reactionary cards.
Right, but my question is
because a reroll is a reactionary card. Because wouldn't that mean like car?
But my question is is it reactionary cards or reactionary abilities, right?
Well, it says in this. Yeah, I would suspect it's abilities, but
well, let's look. It's under initiative. Hang on. Initiative. Anything that is reactionary. Oi.
So
right,
I think
what were you reading about the reactionary step in initiative?
That's initiative. Anything that's reactionary ignores initiative timing rules. So
the re-rolling of a blank sounds reactionary to me.
Yeah. So that ability would be able to be used at that time, right?
Right.
And then the other abilities would have to be at the beginning of the combat phase.
I guess that's true. But on the other hand, so Copilot loses. Mr. Spock, on the other hand, now activates a free action before anything else happens. So that's awesome.
Which is amazing. Not only
so
that,
good.
but his ship gets the ox before it moves.
Right.
So you can do his free action, get the ox, and then perform a green maneuver and strip the ox.
And presumably, all free action captains are going to be at the beginning of the round, right?
Let's see. What's an example? Gul Dukat?
And Picard.
What's Picard?
Well, okay, so let's look at Picard 9. Hang on.
Each round.
No, that's about as vague as you can get.
Yeah, that
well,
doesn't...
The issue is that, and we'll get to this at the end for sure, is there is some kind of WARF clarification on that, right? But how
Ducat-
much that still holds now, I have no idea.
Ducat is
Yeah,
the same, by the
so-
way. He's free round. Hang on, let me see Mr.
Yeah, and
Spock.
Mr. Spock, Federation Mr. Spock, is your ship may perform a target or scan action as a free action this
Yeah,
round.
it's exactly the same as Ducat. Who else is a free action captain?
Who's the Vulcan that's a free action captain?
I don't know. He's terrible.
What's the Hathaway say?
Hathaway is different because it's you have to perform a second action, and they've ruled that means you have to do the other one first.
Yeah.
So
So,
that
Tucker,
has a specific timing.
Yeah, you were mentioning something about Arcturus.
Okay, well, no. We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
So I guess to continue with this, first of all, that's great. Like that clarifies so much.
Yeah.
Adds a ton of clarity and depth to the game, and actually gives you more strategic, more difficult decisions that you're rewarded for making correctly. Right. Mm-hmm. So these timing rules are great, and the first half is.
Anyway. So this is an example of separating the wheat from the chaff, right? Where better players can excel in using this rule. Thank you, Robert Chess.
Yeah, and it offers clarity for all players, even if it's your first game. It offers you clarity, right?
Right.
But yes, better players are going to be able to make better use of the decisions, presumably, right? Like that's almost definition.
That's given. All right.
And thank you to Stephen for pointing out that Varley also has free action economy.
Okay. Take us to the second paragraph.
Effects, abilities, etc. that can be activated at any time can only activate between phases or at the start of a phase, step, or time when any other effect could be activated.
Joseph, what does this make amazing?
So it changes because previously at any time was ruled to be just between phases, and it was largely because of the card Transwarp Signal, which is back in business, and I now get to be cheerful because we'll do a lot to end the very petty reign of one Gul Madred.
So sorry, what card is good again?
Transwarp Signal.
Meaning, we are the Borg! The Borg are amazing! Woo!
There is a reason to play to have Borg slots again, that's for sure. And not just for Dispersion Field.
Yeah, I'm super excited it's back. It is such a great timing card. So for those who may not have used it, basically what it does is it lets you drop an ops on an opponent's ship.
Okay, no. There's a lot more to it than that. I am on Utopia right now. Here we go. Discard this card to target a ship anywhere in the play area. Remove one token, evade battle station scan or target lock from beside the target ship. If you remove target lock token from this card, remove the corresponding target lock token as well. Place an auxiliary power token beside the target ship. This upgrade may only be purchased for a Borg ship. No ship can be equipped with more than one Transwarp Signal Borg upgrade. This upgrade has no effect on a species 8472 ship.
And I think this is somewhat out of the... Well, and that's neat because it does make bioships a little bit better, right?
Yeah,
Which
it does.
I'm always for. But, and that was kind of the thing that drew me to them in the first place, I think. So one thing that's sort of outside the purview of this strategic podcast is that if you're playing someone who's new or anyone, it will give you a strategic disadvantage, but it will probably not get you yelled at if you explain how this card works to your opponent before the game starts. Because it is a card that has the capacity to just end a game because your opponent does something, they need to do an action, they don't realize that you're going to take that action away from them, and that's the whole game, right?
They set their dial for a red maneuver, and then you put the ox next to their ship.
That's
and
right.
you fly it off.
And then you fly it off, or even, they do a 3-bank to get out because they're going to Admiral Forrest around. Well, they're not going to get to Admiral Forrest around.
I mean, it's lure, right? Like, in some cases, it just turns into lure.
No, it's much more powerful than lore.
Yeah, it's the most powerful card in the game.
No, what I'm
it's the most
saying.
powerful,
Go ahead.
and it's back.
Until otherwise spoken for, transwarp signal is back.
And it won't be quite as good before, probably, because what was so nice about it before, or synergized so well, is that you wanted to be playing Borg ships anyway because they're so much better. That's no longer the case, right? But man, if any one card could catapult a class of ships back into the limelight, this is the card. So,
Well,
it makes my Borg Galors relevant again.
You know what?
That's right.
You know what? You know what? If you think about it, right, the fleet I ran at the unofficial regional, I just put Gen Con on that sphere because I had 4 points, and that's what you do when you have 4 points and are missing a captain. That could have been transport signal.
Yeah, I still think you use Gen Con in that situation.
Sure, but like my point is,
ooh, I don't know about that.
and see that is the point, right? Like that's a decision now, and that boy does that say something.
Something also important to remember about transwarp signal is that it's not limited to any range either.
Yeah, which is part of what makes it so amazing, and it's not an action, and it's 1 per ship, but 1's great, 2 is
devastating.
So devastating.
All right.
Yeah. It makes me want to rebuild my Devil Ox fleets that I used to run.
Yeah.
Because if you want to take a ship out of the game, just put 2 Oxes next to it.
Yeah. Well, there was a time where like actions just if you built you didn't build fleets that took actions because you weren't going to get them, right?
Okay. So, next thing is combat versus non-combat. This is largely confusing, but the really important part of it is this. If an ability allows a ship to make an attack outside of the normal combat phase, carry out the normal combat steps of the combat phase for that attack. For the purposes of all rules, the attack counts as being in the combat phase and going through each of the combat steps. This means that effects such as those granted by a cloak token, LOL, would be in effect. So, what that means is everything that works in the combat phase now works when you're hit, for example, by Admiral Worf.
Yes. So all tokens are active.
And
so scan tokens would be active, target lock tokens would be active, battle station tokens would be active. You can now trigger all of those.
Yeah. And all effects that say during the combat phase, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
again, another good example of them clearing up something.
Oh shoot! You could co-pilot.
Because it'd be the beginning. It'd be like it's like a mini universe or subverse.
Well, you could
at
the very least you could use the reroll. That's undisputable.
Yeah. And the effect that does a damage. Which one is that? Number 2. Any effect that would cause an attack to be made outside. No.
No.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Any effect that would cause an attack to be made outside the normal combat phase or damage to be dealt.
Or damage to be dealt. Yeah. So Matt Decker is now a combat effect.
Gelnon is now a combat effect.
Yeah. So Worf that adds a damage. When you do a damage in an attack, you could use him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is there going to be a difference between... So do you think they're parsing the difference between an attack and a combat effect? Or do you think an attack is a combat effect?
No.
An attack is not a combat effect.
No.
So I'm trying to look up Worf right now. You're talking about the 1 damage Worf, right?
What?
Yeah, I think so.
I think he says, if you inflict at least 1 damage, normal or critical, to an enemy ship during the deal damage step of the combat phase, you may discard this card to inflict 1 additional damage.
So it would work.
Yeah, so he works.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So,
and then the clear example that non-combat effects and combat effects show is Gul Madred, right? So if you use Nankless to take away their evade dice, and then you Gul Madred them, they still get evade dice for the Gul Madred effect.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, here we go. This is it. This is the big one. This is the biggest single change.
I don't know if this is...
Yes, it is.
I think
This is the game
And-
that
no, we-
caused me
it's
to. This is the effect that caused me. This and the 23 point or less generic Vorcha is what caused me to go and delete 60 cards from the Staw 300 today. I'm dead
Okay.
serious. All right, you know what?
Well,
I'm
let's
gonna
get
pull it
into
up.
it.
I'm gonna pull it up. You guys read it out, and I'm just gonna make a point. Okay.
Joseph, read away.
Do not start reading cards from the Star 300, for goodness sakes. Let's dig into the rule of 3 here.
Joseph, please commence.
Whenever the sum of all modifiers applied to any value, primary weapon value, agility value, hull value, shield value, attack value, maneuver speed, range, captain skill, squadron points, etc. So it's not
Very
an
important,
exhaustive
etc.
list. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is greater than +3 or less than -3, the sum of all modifiers is instead +3 or -3, respectively. All modifiers continue to apply to the value, only their sum is changed. This rule applies to modifiers, not replacement values, so it doesn't affect cloak. Replacement values can alter the printed value by more than 3 before any modifiers apply, so you could cloak and then add extra defense dice and you'd get them up to 3. With modifiers still limited to a net modification of +3 or -3 on the replaced value, as a rule of thumb, replacement effects are always applied before modifier effects. And then finally, the range bonuses, so +1 for attack at range 1 and +1 to defense at range 3, do not count as a modifier for the purposes of the rule of 3.
Okay. So the first easy thing that we can say is that the Type A upgraded phaser and tactical station combination for +4 does not work anymore.
Also affected, possibly. Arturus gets +5 captain skill if he's on the. I'm sorry, he gets +3 captain skill if he's on the Dauntless. Lursa gets +4. I'm sorry, +3 captain skill if Betor is a crew member on her ship.
That's right.
Okay, so this is interesting because it says is +1. Let me look up Type A. You might be right on all this.
And just because I saw some people were talking about it on the Facebook group today, to clarify, it's only altering the sum of all the modifiers.
Right.
So the example we were talking about was the Hakona says it can give up to a +4, right? So the Hakona, if you have the other ships, Romulan ships in play, gives +4, right? And then after that's done, then you take the sum, which is 4, or maybe if there's something else, it's that, and then you limit it to +3.
This is the Hakona.
Yeah.
The Hakona one is not a replacement. That's explicitly a bonus.
I'm not talking about replacement.
What?
I'm saying that so people were talking about when you modify it and you modify the sum, right?
Oh,
so
sorry, I misunderstood.
And then two, in this rules and in the old rules, it says if a card specifically says specific cards trump general rules is what it says, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that doesn't apply because the Hakona actually is doing what the card says and giving you the +4. Mm-hmm. But then after that process, you modify the sum.
Right, and the other important part of it is, let's say you're attacking a ship with shield adaptation, which says -, or even just the Enterprise D that we talked about earlier, right? It says you attack the Enterprise D, you get -1 attack die. Okay, if the Hakona is in a fleet with 4 other Romulan ships and attacks the Enterprise D, it gets +3 dice, not +2, because it gets the 4 base. Then the Enterprise subtracts 1, which leaves it with 3, and then the rule of 3 looks at it and says, "Yeah, that's good to me." And if it was at range 1, right, it would still get that range bonus too.
And that wouldn't even enter into it.
Right. So that's actually, the Hakona is a really good example. So hang on. So some questions. Steven, is combat vessel variant a replacement? No. It explicitly is your primary weapon and hull values are each at +1.
Yeah.
But so this also goes to the Arturus thing. Artur into a wonderful political statement. But what is for Arturus? What does is mean?
That
Right,
Okay.
because it's not gain, but it says is. And so I almost think, and this is splitting hairs, and this is where they're gonna have to do. This is probably one of the areas they're gonna have to do the most work to clear up because they have a very good idea in here that I do not think they convey well with how they describe it.
If Arturus' captain skill is +5, I think it's very hard to read that as anything other than he gets +5 to his captain skill.
well, no, see, because the
But it
thing
doesn't
is,
say
no. Let's say he gets hit.
Oh, you're saying it's a replacement effect.
right.
But no, and it's still, but it's the thing is, it's still useful. Even like if he gets hit by stalking mode, his captain skill would still be 6 as opposed to 4. So it
Yeah, no, see, and also combat vessels, again, it says each at +1. So that really sounds like a replacement effect more than a
it doesn't say
modifier.
replace. It doesn't say
Yeah,
replace.
I'll tell you if, like, I think there's some ambiguity on Sulu, but if things that have a plus and a number beside them are sometimes counting as a replacement effect, then you're right, and it should be stated even more strongly. It's a mess if that's true, because
That can't be true, Robert. That just can't be true. Or
Yeah.
The game doesn't work. Like the game just doesn't. The game
So-
just fails to work.
Man, I like this. I like this rule in theory. I think the application of this rule is not
the issue.
going well.
The issue, well, I guess I shouldn't say the issue, but I think the tendency is to think of this first and foremost, because attacking is what the game's about. This is the name of the game. Is to think of this as a modifier for attacking, a cap on how, and defense. But where this is going to matter the most is in captain skill, is in squad points, because Vero gives +5 if she's on the wrong ship. Well, now she can only give +3, right?
Yeah,
so she's an 8 point.
She's an 8
Now she
point.
costs 8 points to go on anything, right? And that
Right.
I really can't believe that's what they intended to do. But how
Well,
else do you read it?
To be fair, it would mean that point reductions wouldn't apply. Like, let me think of a good example here. What's an example of a really cheap weapon that costs like 1,000,000 points to put somewhere else?
Upgraded phasers, but that actually costs 3.
No, that actually works. That
Three.
actually works perfectly for this example. If you had no, it doesn't. Shoot.
Yeah, because if it's off faction, it'd be +4. But
No, hang on. What's that Bajoran? Phaser strike is 4. I need specifically a 2-cost weapon. Utopia will let me search for this. Hang on. This is such a specific.
So what do you?
example, But
So while Tucker searches, let's keep talking about it.
Yeah, so like energy dissipator now, which I love, now only costs 9 to put on a ship instead of 11.
Why
Viral now
not?
only costs
Right,
9.
isn't it 5? Don't they cost 5?
Right, but now it's only 3 because of the rule of 3.
Yeah, 5 and 3 is 8.
8 plus out of faction is 9.
No, that.
Oh, you're
that-
right. Yeah, it'll be 8.
it's just
Yeah.
8.
Yeah.
So that's a thing.
And I can't imagine that was their intention when they put this in here.
No, but I don't think there's any ambiguity in how it reads. Now, in the announcement, it did say more rules articles were coming, right?
Yeah.
But
And again, like I say, I think things like Arturus, like combat vessel. Another example we brought up, or that I thought of, is flagships. I think flagships are quintessential replacements, not modifiers.
They're not. They
Well-
literally have plus and a number.
I know, but
Right, but this rule book. If you go to the cloak symbol itself has a plus symbol next to it.
But it also
Yeah,
explicitly
agreed.
says replace, which is why they can get away with that.
Right. So then, what they should have done is said that they should have.
All right, you know
The
what?
only thing-
I just no. I just realized I probably have an answer to this. Keep going. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, I think they should have said the only thing that does not apply to the rule of three is cloak, right? Then that solves everything. That zero replacement effect concept, because I feel like they tried to shoehorn replacement effects to clarify cloak.
All right, listen to this.
Yeah.
These cards, this is from the flagship rules card, which I went and dug up for you. These cards will have additional stats that increase the printed value. Increase the printed values?
That is a replacement effect.
That sounds like a replacement to me.
Okay, that does sound like a replacement effect.
But flagships are rotated out.
Yeah, flagships, nobody cares about flagships.
But I thought it was a replacement.
Right, so...
Too, right? And like, one that's I think, as I said, is ambiguous is Sulu, right? Like...
Right. Sulu says add 2 to your ships, and it doesn't use the plus, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with Robert that, well, I kind of like the replacement effect. I like this rule of 3 for, like, attacking, but
I like it for captain skill.
No,
I like it for attacking.
So captain skill, here's what it does. Number 1, Picard 9 is the best captain in the game. Number 2,
Maybe.
Number 2, female Q is the second best captain in the game because she's the only one that can get to 13 now. Number 3, Gen Con is the third best captain in the game because he's the only other person that can get to 13.
I think that you guys are still thinking of what the game was and not what the game will become.
Well, it's hard to think of what the game will become, because that's just like you have a nebulous idea of what you think it might become.
Right, and that's
right.
And it's hard to argue against that.
Ron Porter brought up transphasics. That's gonna be awesome.
Why? What do they say?
Because they cost +10 if they're not on Voyager. or
No.
something like that. Something like that. I don't know what it is. Hang on. Let me look. Transphasics. Hang on.
It can only be purchased.
It can only be purchased on Voyager. Okay.
Yeah, but there's something that was like...
He's thinking of chronotons. They're +6 if they're not on...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. But see, this is the thing. Like, it doesn't change the base. It just says they're at +1. It's like saying, what's a good one? Unimatrix shielding, right? Unimatrix shielding says add +2 to your ship's shield value. Okay? So if I can stack that with systems upgrade and immersion shielding, right? If those all just add to the printed value, why is shield value even mentioned in here?
Right.
That's a really good question.
Oh, yeah.
And why is, like, that etc. really means any number, almost, right? Like, but they specifically mention some things. But the problem with captain, I think that having a cap on captain skill is a problem similar with why I dislike the initiative. But what I'm talking about here for not liking it is, like, Lursa and Baitor don't work. Like, it's going to affect things like cards don't do what they say anymore, which is a big
and that's
problem.
going to be hard to explain to new players.
And here's another fun one though, because there's another huge question. You ready for this one?
No, before you get there, Stephen Scott talked about the combat vehicle variant.
I just said it's not in the same. It doesn't change the base.
What I wanted to point out is that I think it's replacement. You guys think that it's a modifier, and until it gets cleared up, it's going to be person to person.
That is true, right?
Like, as a TO...
it's the same as flagship, so I'm kind of...
Yes,
why isn't it replacement? Because it doesn't...
Because it says...
You guys said it has a +1 next to it.
No, it says your primary weapon and hull values are each at +1. In fact, wait one friggin' second, will you?
Okay. So anyway, as a TO, and going to Lone's point right now, that's confusing for people that's going to come back, I basically have to say the rule of 3 does not apply to building fleets. right? You build your fleet, it does not apply, except maybe shields,
No,
or it doesn't apply to.
That doesn't
It
make any
doesn't.
sense.
I know it doesn't make sense, but that's what I'm going to have to say. It doesn't apply to a tourist. It doesn't apply to Beta.
A tourist isn't
Baitor.
a tourist and and Baitor aren't building fleets. They're game effects.
Oh,
He's saying he's gonna allow those
right.
as the TO.
Yeah, cards that give those types of modifiers are going to remain. Chronotons, Varel, those types of
then
things.
What is the point?
And the points: captain skill, attack, defense, maybe shield stacking. I think that's actually a really good example of one.
No,
I think
if you're gonna let Arturus through, right? Why not let Arturus
Right.
have Riker? What are you gonna cap that at?
Those are. Yeah,
Are you not going to cap it?
It's a difficult call for me to make, but that is in my mind where I'm drawing the line.
But see, here's the
And
thing.
TOs, but TOs making, and I think that's fair, but ultimately arbitrary or personal choices.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
is
Yeah.
the last thing that these new rules were supposed to do. So,
Right.
Right.
But let me put it this way, okay? If it's not that, if it's not, Candyland, whatever, Arturus and Stalking Mode interact exactly the same as Hakona and Enterprise D. So all you're doing is creating rules ambiguity and
buffer.
confusion. Like, this is...
Yeah.
This is a rule... Sorry, go ahead.
I'll have to see how it plays out. I mean, you can't tell me that Vero was intended to be captured by this. Okay, I'll back off of the Arturus argument. You have a very good reason for your Arturus argument, and I will set that aside and agree with you for this conversation tonight. Mm-hmm. Mine is more for things like energy dissipator, chronotons, or any of those.
Let me give you an example here. Okay, Vero goes on the Valjean. Okay? She costs 8. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Calvin Hudson goes on the Valjean. Vero still costs 8.
So everybody's going to have to do high math calculations on this? No, that's not how you build a fleet.
Well, the example is about 4 paragraphs worth of text long, so yeah, high math is the order of the day.
I tend to agree that I don't think that that's the intent, but like, and if we were just arguing off of the etc., I'd be a lot more tempted to just say I just think they didn't mean that. But like, they put squadron points in the, like there it is, right, in black and white, so.
But what could they be referring to otherwise? I guess, why did they put that in there?
I mean, well, my assumption is the reason Tactical Station needed errata in the first place was because if you could combine 3 different effects that reduced its cost to 0 from 4. So, in that world, Tactical Station only costs 1 point and is still probably incredibly problematic in multiples, but...
Well, the problem was that it gave us the slot.
Right.
It could fill itself.
There were a lot of issues with Tactical
Like,
Station.
if you're playing 1 for each Tactical Station, you're fine. I'm happy to pay that.
I just remember what I said on State of the Federation at the time. I said, Mr. Worf, fire torpedoes. I cannot, sir. I can't reach my station because of all these tactical stations in the way.
Yeah. No, the squadron points. Maybe I'm gonna have to. I hate having people come in with build sheets, and oh hey, I'm back to play. This is great. Here's my build sheet. Like, oh, hey, you're not at 130. You're really at 128.
Well, and I've made I agree with you, because that's the thing I hate the most. And when you have to tell someone that a card doesn't work, with Lure a lot, because it got that errata, right? It doesn't. Right. It doesn't work at all like how it says, right? Mm-hmm. And like, when you tell someone how Lure really works, they don't believe you. Like, they think you're cheating them.
You know what?
And it doesn't like I don't get mad that I can
Right.
tell they think I'm cheating because I would think that too. And actually, a new player came to our store the other week, and he had lure because why wouldn't you take lure? It's a great card, and I
Exactly.
knew that the choice was I had to just let him use lure the way it was written, or otherwise we'd never see him again, right?
And imagine this, okay? Imagine like the super rich collector guy who decides to enter this game, and his strategy is to buy 5 stargazers and just run 4 tactical stations or 5 tactical stations.
Yeah. I think people also anyone coming in with the idea to break the game, I don't feel sorry for them.
Right, but I'm not talking.
Now the
But
lure
the
situation I feel
people,
sorry for, but not the 5 tactical stations.
yeah, or here's Lursen Betzor, and I have an 8 captain skill, so
Right.
I get to attack now, right? No, you have a 7,
Yeah.
and now I'm gonna blow you up before you get to fire with my 8, right?
Yeah. Welcome back to the
That's just
game. I'll
not,
see you next OP.
yeah, that's not gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
So Tucker, you are yeah. I'm gonna struggle with this. I want to let Arturus and Baitor work, but you're absolutely right that there has to be a line. And I think I'm still gonna say that squadron building stays the same, and it can't affect it because I can't have people coming in with broken build sheets.
well, this much I will say that I think is positive, and because I mean 95% of the words in this were very positive on, right? It's just
Right.
those 5%
Well,
of the
no,
words.
100%, 100% of the words are great. It's the words they left out that are
So
problematic.
let me ask you this, Robert. What are you going to
Mhm.
do when a new player who's bought the starter and read the rulebook and comes into your shop and submits a build sheet that works because they applied rule of 3 to a penalty? What are you going to do then?
Then I give them the God. What's the stupid award that people get for being like the player of the game? Like
The
the
fellowship
participation.
award? You give
Yeah,
them
the
the
fellowship
fellowship
award.
prize.
And he auto qualifies for the fellowship award.
Yeah. So what I would say is
Yeah,
that
sorry,
like
Lucas. Lucas just made a comment, and Luke and Tucker's right, Lucas. That Lucas's comment is, "Let's be honest, read the rules before you come." And Tucker's point is, if I change the rules to make it how it used to work, and people come with now how it works, then I'm disadvantaging all the people that are coming knowing how the game properly works,
yeah.
which is a very, very valid point, and that's why we have the fellowship.
All right, so
So, well, just let me say this to Robert's TO point, which is this: that even though there are things other than the rule of 3, even though there are things I don't like in here, if you have a community and you're TOing it, take these rules, pretend Wharf doesn't exist, just use these rules, figure out how you want a rule of 3 to work, and that's your only problem. And you'll have a great community, and you'll have fun playing attack wing until it gets to a certain competitive threshold, right? Because
Right.
like there are things I don't like here that are going to cause some problems, maybe like at Origins next year. But like just playing through OPs, this rules document is excellent with this one. Like this has to be addressed because it's going to affect new and old and everyone in
right.
between.
Okay, so we've spent quite a bit of time on this, and I do want to move us on, but there is one other aspect here that, not of Rule of 3, but of modification that needs to be addressed, which is you replace, then you modify. This is my favorite 2-sentence pairing in the rulebook. The order in which replacements, modifiers, and range bonuses take place is irrelevant. To calculate a value, start with the printed value, and then apply any replacements. First numbers, and then those that multiply or divide, and then the sum of all modifiers. So, let's pretend that first sentence isn't there.
Yeah. So real fast, Ryan asks, "Do we still have faction penalties?" And I believe we still do have faction
We do,
penalties, right?
and well,
Yeah.
yes, we do, and we can talk about that because that's one of my great victories in this rulebook. But now, I want to talk about replacement. Okay, so this is very clear. I mean, aside from the piece that says it's irrelevant, which it clearly isn't, this is very clear. You start with replacements, right? You go printed value, and then you apply replacements, and then you apply the sum of all modifiers, right? We're clear on this, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about Gen Con.
Yeah.
Gen
what way?
Con is a replacement effect.
Yeah.
Gen Con is going to apply his replacement effect now before modifiers. So if I put Riker on Gen Con's ship, he has 3 higher skill than anyone.
When does Riker give his skill? We don't have static effects, right? Because the problem is that Gen Con used to rewrite whatever bonuses he got between phases, which is the only time his captain skill could change. Now he's going to rewrite whatever captain skill he has at the beginning of every step.
Right, but here's my point, Joseph, okay? To calculate a value, oh, you know what? Riker is also a replacement effect. Okay, here we go. Yeah, look at this. All right, your 4 replacement effects, your 4 combat vessel being a replacement effect. William T. Riker, your captain skill number is +3. That is the exact same phrasing as combat vessel variant.
I agree.
So is that a replacement effect, and this rule is meaningless for captain skill, or is this a bonus? And Gen Con is amazing.
Where does it say this?
On Riker from Pegasus, it's the first sentence is your captain skill number is +3, which is the exact same phrasing that they use on combat variant vessels. And Arturus.
And so why are we saying that's a replacement effect now?
He's saying if I'm arguing that combat vessel is a replacement effect and Arturus is a replacement effect.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
therefore
so,
I must accept his...
Right.
Oh, wait. So Elam Garrick doesn't use a plus symbol. He actually uses the phrase add to, ADD to. So he falls into the Sulu camp.
That's right. Yeah.
The mirror Elam Garrick.
Yeah, mirror.
Okay, because the Federation Elam Garrick actually adds +2.
Right.
So that's it definitely needs to be cleared up.
And then Worf is done correctly, where it says increase your captain skill by +1, +3. Hey, new Pegasus. What's new? What's Riker say now on the Pegasus card?
Oh, good call. Let me look it up. Let's see. Grissom attack wing preview. Let's have a look. All right. Preview wave 1 USS Grissom. Come on, load. Your servers are old. StarTrek.com. All right.
Isn't in Utopia? Wouldn't that have been faster for you?
All right, here we go. Modify the captain skill of the captain equipped to this ship by +3.
There you go.
Modifier. So, let's talk about Gen Con.
So modify is rule of 3.
Right.
Yeah. So
right?
the Pegasus Riker was reprinted with the Grissom.
Right.
And I believe it was reprinted really to demonstrate how they want old cards to be read.
Well, also because Pegasus Riker is an amazing card and everybody should use it. But that too.
Yeah, well, that's true. But so I think that's what they're trying to clear up. Because also if you look at Worf that adds it, it's increase your captain skill by +1. So we see them also being more careful with their language as recently as the Rotaran pack.
Oh, you know what? You know what else? Look at this. Riker gives us an example of both, right? Because he also says, if the captain equipped to this ship is disabled or discarded, this ship's captain skill is 5.
Not +5, but is 5. So that's a clear replace. Oh, right. Except his token has a +5.
His token represents a thing that is impossible to have happen in this game. That is true. That is correct. Okay. But here's my thing. Okay. So Khan's skill number equals that captain's skill number. That's not a bonus. That's a replacement effect. Replace then modify.
Right. So Michael Wells, yes, that's what we're exactly addressing now. Is can Khan now outlap the highest captain by +3 by having Riker?
And here's a real problem. What if you both have Khans with Riker?
To infinity and beyond.
You know what it would be? The player with initiative applies their replacement effect first.
But they would have a lower captain skill.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that is odd is that you can now do that at the beginning of every step, right?
Right.
So, like, to march through from, like, every step of the game, your captains would go up +3 skill, wouldn't they?
So are we certain that we still test?
No, I don't. I don't. Maybe.
What?
Maybe.
So so hang on. Let's go back. Let's clarify this. When do we actually test for captain skills?
Now, or how con worked was between phases. Captain
Right.
skill.
No, but not asking about con. Not asking about
Okay,
con.
captain
I'm
skill
just saying.
only change between phases.
Michael makes an effect and makes a very salient point. You can only apply an effect once per game round, right?
We don't know. I mean, we would like to think so, but I don't think that's in the rulebook anywhere.
Well, so captain skill could only change between phases, but that's changed now, right? With the new timing window.
Right.
So captain
Right.
skill can change at the beginning of every step.
All right. You know what? Let me just put. I'm going to put it like this. This is the exact same discussion we had about Gen Con the first time around. It's literally the same discussion. It just means it's just we can only have, there are fewer modifiers that we can apply to it, but it's the exact same discussion. So it's either going to get thrown to Worf, or they both have infinite skill, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's a mess.
It's let me actually.
Can I say this is quintessential WizKids?
And to
A
clarify,
really good idea executed poorly.
well, I don't feel that the rules as a whole are a mess. I just mean a con versus con with two Rikers would be a mess.
Con
But
versus,
I agree with that assessment of yours in some cases, Robert.
Yeah.
Other than, again, right, like, this is going to be a really nice, if you were starting up a community with this rule book, other than the rule of three thing, this would be pretty nice.
right, because
Right?
Gen Con costs $100. Like,
And here's the other. Actually, it's lower now because there's been a surplus in the market.
that's true. But still.
So if you do not have a Gen Con, by the way, go out pay $50 for him because this is about the lowest he gets in the market
Yeah, that's true.
over the past 2 to 3 years. And actually, I have Robert to thank. I have Robert Chess to thank for my Gen Con. Again, thank you immensely for that.
So, I agree, Robert, that it'll be ruled again, that it can't be. I agree that the old ruling will come back into play. But what I'm curious
Well, here's the other thing, too. Oh, so the other thing I was going to say, to Joseph's point, if a community is starting up right now, I am hoping that WizKids moving forward will clarify this rule of three so it's not going to be a problem. So it's only going to be a fringe problem when people buy some of the older packs, which are going to be outdated a little bit, because if they don't adjust all the old ships' pricing, people are not going to be as incentivized to buy those old ships.
Well, they're going to need to buy those old ships to buy the card packs, Robert.
Yeah, but didn't you mention that they're reprinting some of the ships, or they're going to have the
I'm looking around.
deep cut models?
I'm looking around, and I can't find confirmation of that. I
Okay.
may have misinterpreted a comment that was somewhat ambiguous in Game Trade magazine to say that I thought that they were printing old ships, but I don't know that they are.
Because that's also going to be an interesting bottleneck. If I want to run a 5 drone fleet, like in a year and a half, if I want to run a 5 drone fleet, that's going to be hard to come up to.
Right. Very
Yeah.
hard.
And Stephen, so that's what we're talking about, is because of the unclarity with the rule of three. Oh, Stephen asks, if you change the initiative, then how does that work for the con Riker? And it's basically every other initiative, the other person would have the lower Riker skill.
Yeah.
And it's bouncing back and forth right now until we get clarity.
Right. But anyway.
Okay.
The big news.
So that was our longest segment.
The big news.
And it was the big change.
Yeah.
Big news. Factions. Factions are the Bajoran and Vulcan factions, and the Kazon, Ferengi, and Xindi factions are not quite no more, but they've been rolled into bigger ones. Vulcan and Bajoran ships now count. Vulcan and Bajoran cards now also count as Federation. Ferengi, Kazon, and Xindi ships now also count as independent. This is huge.
Yeah. So Joseph, how did you explain this to me? Like, I can put a Type 8 on a Vulcan ship No, wait.
Vulcan cards and ships count as though they're Federation cards and ships. Federation cards and ships do not count as though they're Vulcan.
So I can't
cards
put
and
upgraded
ships.
phasers on a Vulcan ship, and I can't at discount.
Yes,
You
you
can.
can. Yes,
You can, because a Vulcan ship counts as a Federation ship, but you can't put
Vulcan High Command. You
command with a Federation captain.
Got it. Okay.
But this change
So-
still means that despite them being combined, Mr. Spock is still not a Vulcan captain.
That's right.
Okay.
But so the big winners are the Vulcan and Bajoran ships because they can now get upgraded phasers and Type 8s
And
actually have some.
And enhanced hull plating. Hello, Talkir.
My my interceptor fleet is going to come to life.
That's right, because those interceptors could easily have 4 attack now.
Yeah.
Do they only have 2 base?
Yes.
But
That's
I mean,
depressing.
Okay, so what about things like
they
not
cost
one of
more
the-
than they cost more than Oberths now. So
Okay, so blockade specifically. No, not blockade. What's one of the ones? What's a Bajoran talent that specifically says militia?
It only works on Bajorans.
Right. So that means it still just only works on Bajoran stuff.
Correct. You can still only go on Bajorans.
Okay.
Also,
If it's upgraded to a Bajoran ship with a Bajoran captain, get +2 attack that round. So militia, nothing has changed for militia.
right,
yeah, it's still not
Okay.
worth it.
Got it. God, for 3 points. Well, I mean, maybe you trick out those interceptors. No, because the rule of 3 is going to hit.
Yep.
and then the independent thing actually would have been even bigger, but with captured, it doesn't. It's not really relevant. It's not really as relevant.
It's not as relevant, but the fact that Quark's treasure is now an independent ship matters a lot. For example, for Calvin Hudson.
Yeah, but I mean,
Well, you could have just threw captured on there, and then that solves it. Like every ship in the game is now independent for 2 points, or 1 point, or 0 points, depending how you calculate fleet points.
Okay, I guess that's true, but still, it's the principle of the thing.
Except, I guess, you don't want to run it. You don't want to run captured on a Fed ship because they're just going to get a +1 attack against you.
Yeah, but that doesn't. Yeah, that's less relevant.
I mean, so what I liked about, not in the rule book, what I liked about captured and that +1 effect is that it discourages you from using it with a popular ship and encourages you to use it with the less popular ships.
That's right. Yeah, and it's a great card because there's a trade-off, right? You're making a difficult decision.
Right. Okay.
Sure.
Let's not talk about captured. Let's talk about other stuff.
Okay.
And I think so. Okay. So this is. Is there anything else to say about the factions, though?
Nailed it. I like it. I know Joseph's not totally thrilled by it, but I love that factions are separated from initiative now.
That was an understatement, but anyway, let's continue.
Well, no, I think your understatement is how they deal with it. If they found some other resolution, then you would be okay with it. I think one thing we can agree on, maybe you don't even, but I think it's really good that they've untangled factions from initiative.
No, I couldn't disagree with you more.
You don't know how many times I've gone to this stupid card looking at the list of all of the 12 factions or 13 factions now.
Yeah, and how many cards have you played? How many ships have you played that you never would have? You know, Richard Bliss wouldn't have had that Regent's flagship in the quarterfinal of Worlds without it having a mirror universe.
He absolutely would have. The reason he ran that was so that he could avoid the faction penalty for Mirror Admiral Worf.
No, it was so that it moved last and he could point the brow.
I built that fleet.
That's right. That's right, he did.
And we've discussed many times.
I see what you're saying, yeah. Right, so right, yeah, to a certain extent, you're correct that we picked it to be a lesser than Klingon fleet. But now the rules say I get to choose which ship moves first and which moves second, which I think is a better solution.
Well, it's a much worse one. But anyway, let's not go. We had our conversation about that, so let's go to the next stuff.
Oh, shuttles. I think we both agree on this one, Joseph.
Well, Tucker talked about primary, secondary. I know I didn't write it down, but I guess addressed that.
Yeah. We talked about earlier on. We talked about 360.
Yeah, it's a little circle symbol.
Yeah, which is nice. But shuttles had a very dramatic change from how they operate, and I think Joseph and I both agree. Not Ryan, but both Joseph and I agree that it's to the detriment, almost to the elimination of shuttles from the game.
It's all right. Look, speaking as the battle station guy, there are ways and there are means, but it's a lot harder.
Not efficiently.
It's a lot harder.
Yeah.
So
let's discuss them. What are they?
Yeah.
Joseph, what are the new docking rules? Or what's the new shuttle rules?
So they can attack at 1 to 2, which is the same. They're active or inactive, which is considered the same, except when they're inactive, you can affect the cards on your opponent can affect the cards on them, and then
that's actually a major change because this means Data, elementary deer Data, can gank shuttles. And I don't mean he can gank entire shuttles.
That's awesome.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my God, that is so amazing.
And then the big one is you cannot equip cards to a shuttlecraft. Cards not upgrades, so captains and admirals as well. Well, you couldn't put admirals on. I wonder if that's changed or not. But anyway, that's an end of the session discussion. A cost of more than 3 squadron points, including face down cards. That's the big one. Other than it's how do they want us to calculate the 3 squadron points? Because, for example, if you use the Vulcan captain, well, he lets you take a tech and it costs exactly 3.
Oh, you mean
Tanalos?
Tanalos, yeah. I mean, he might
Not
be
a
4
Vulcan and a
points.
Bajorn.
He may be 4 points. I can't remember, but
so Tanalos.
What about taking Kirk?
Listen. Tanalos is 3 points. So he can't go on Cork's treasure.
He can go on. He can go on the Fed ships. Yeah, no. Okay, so now he's relevant.
But couldn't you? Oh no, go ahead.
So if he makes it cost exactly 3, does he work? If you take Kirk with an elite talent,
you can't take Kirk because he costs more than 3.
Okay, a similar effect to that, right? Where because to me those cards are deployed to the ship, but deployed face down, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, but then this is by way of contrasting with Quark. Is he in a replacement effect that makes the card 0? Because when you flip that card over, if someone ganks it, there's a ruling that card is 0. Squadron points. So is he a replacement effect? And does the card now cost 0 squadron points?
Right. Or is the card even equipped to the ship? But I think there might be a ruling on that as well.
No, because it's possible to... I mean, Tanalos is an example of equipping a face-down card to a shuttlecraft, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, you can't... He explicitly tells you to deploy, which means equip. Those words are synonymous. So...
Beneath him, too, specifically. So it's not even to the ship, but you're deploying it below him.
Right. So, and you can't... I mean, you can't equip a card to a ship that's already equipped to a ship. That's obvious. So Quark would work.
Yeah, I think Quark still works.
So I think that by all sound analysis, it works. Mm-hmm. But I think that the only, including face down cards I've ever seen equipped to a shuttle ever, have been under Quark.
Negative. Khan. Khan 7. Hyde Khan is great on shuttles. I mean, he was. Now now he doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, I'm just like...
Wesley going on shuttle, taking tests.
I'm just saying that it would surprise me very much that including face-down cards was put as a reaction to people using Wesley or even Hyde Khan.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
know
well, again-
we know what's probably going on here. Like,
So if Quark can fix it, then this is close to irrelevant.
no, I disagree with that.
No,
not being able to
you
put
can't
not
take
be
balls.
hey, not being able to put Nanclus or projected stasis field on a shuttle is big.
Both. You can put projected
Yes.
stasis field now under Quark, but you can't take both.
But you can't deploy it to the shuttle and use it on the shuttle.
Well, it
Unless
costs.
it's a replacement effect, which Joseph is successfully convincing me.
No.
Okay.
I don't think it replaces the cost at all. He never
Well,
mentions the cost of the upgrade. It's just that you
I know,
never
but
deploy it.
There's a Worf ruling that card has a cost of 0 squadron points. Like if you discard it with second of 5, if I discard it on my opponent's ship, I get 0 points for
That's
discarding that card.
okay. I guess that's
And that's the right ruling on that situation.
all right. That's fair and weird, but all right. So whatever. Shuttlecraft. Quark maybe salvages this. Let's talk about launching them.
So where does this start?
Launching a shuttlecraft in the middle of page
So
22.
okay, one difference, and I don't mind this one actually, is shuttlecraft can only dock when they overlap. So another ship can't overlap a shuttlecraft and have it dock.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's fine.
It makes sense. You're not going to run. Capital ships tend to run over things, small things in space.
And it makes it again those tough decisions that you get rewarded for making, because you can't launch a shuttle, have it do some stuff, and then have one of your big ships come and pick it up before the combat phase, right?
Yeah.
That is not a strategy you can use anymore. Oh wait. Oh yeah. So they can be affected by opposing things. Launching a shuttlecraft. During the planning phase, a player may launch a shuttlecraft from the capital ship by choosing a maneuver on that shuttlecraft's maneuver dial. Place the appropriate maneuver dial so that it is flush with any side of the capital ship's base and does not extend beyond any edge of the base. Place the shuttlecraft at the opposite end of the template, sliding the rear guards of the shuttlecraft into the opposite end of the template. Then remove the maneuver template. Then separate the shuttlecraft ship card and the card blah 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 blah.
I think the main thing here.
Place an auxiliary power token beside both ships after it's moved. The shuttle may not move normally during the turn it launches, and it cannot be placed on top of another ship. So, one of the problems with shuttlecrafts, Robert, you would say, is that you could launch them at the edge of range 1, then they could go forward 3, and that covered an enormous amount of the board for getting into range 1 and doing
80%. Yeah, I think within range 2, but it's like 80%. Your shuttle was within range of 80% of the board to execute second of 5.
And so having these maneuvers come out is actually kind of neat. It limits that a bit, but not totally, right?
Right.
But the problem is that you're putting an ox on them, so that they won't be able to use any of those effects.
Right.
Any of
And
those
you
cards.
can get around that with something like Power Grid or using Quark Shuttle. But I like this change. I think it's more thematic to what they're trying to accomplish with shuttles.
And I think
The
that
launching or the not moving after they launch and making it more troubling to do effects.
both.
I think both. How the whole launching concept I really like.
I mean,
Well,
when you get down to it, it's really flavorful and it makes more sense.
other than you see them launch that you see shuttles harry or do effects on ships in the shows quite a bit, right? And certainly runabouts. But now that's it's quite a strong barrier to be able to do that. Like, that's clearly not what they're intended to do anymore. They're kind of just like shuttle knot stuff, or like to hide points, right? Like that ox token makes them,
I mean,
way less of a worthwhile,
theoretically, you could use them to shuttle things from one ship to another, but that is a terrible plan, and you should
Oh,
never
that'd be
do it.
hilarious. Oh my god, that would be so awesome.
You should never do that. Please don't ever do that.
Well, that's a good way of destroying a faction pure environment, but yeah.
Well, yes, it is, but that will take. Well, let's talk about faction purity a little bit later. But for now, let's talk about attack squadrons, which incidentally are also a great way of destroying a faction pure environment.
So anyway, well, before we move on though, I think that think these rule changes for shuttle. This was another thing I didn't like. Because now shuttle knots, which I don't think are particularly fun, have been left mostly intact.
No, you can't. No, they were very good at breaking the rule of 50, and they cannot do that because you can't put the higher point captain now on the shuttle.
That's true.
Right. But you can put Hudson, like on a Quark's Treasure, you can put Hudson on, and now you're only limited to 4 squadron point cards, essentially, right?
And
Right.
Quark, if he works.
Yeah. And Quark for the big thing, right? So, like, you're right, shuttle knots aren't anywhere near as good as they were, but they're still pretty good.
Sakona
And-
would get you from 6 to 3 on a weapon.
Well, they already had a weapons limitation anyway, so that's not new.
I guess.
Yeah, but now Sakona can let them get, like,
6-point weapons.
with Hudson, and she only costs 1 point herself.
Right.
Yeah.
Hudson's on. So that's fine, but then like the actual like interesting strategic part of shuttles, which was launching them and making them do effects, has been massively curtailed.
Yeah.
And it's just the Ox token at the end, right? Like that's
Right.
the step too far. You
Yeah.
should have
Power
done.
grid.
Yeah, I know, but I agree there are ways around it, but like I don't
Right,
know.
now you're costing efficiency for fleet building.
Yeah, it's just making them a little bit worse, right?
But
And like they had a lot of trouble here. Let me segue into where you want to go, Tucker. They had a lot of problems lately with multiple attack squadron builds anyway, right? So like,
Right.
And so I also want to say, for all you guys at home, if you want to get a feedback pulse or something on the Sakharov, Tanalos and Geordi from the Enterprise E with that tech reduction will do it. No matter
and
what.
Jordy gets
-1.
the
He
Jordy gets the Sakharov ability to be under 5 hit points himself.
to get to get
'Cause
to
he's
3
a
points.
Better
Yeah.
for-
So
So attack squadrons. The big change.
You know, it's funny. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tucker.
What's funny?
I was saying this rule changed to how the community used to think it worked. Right.
yeah. On attack squadrons, yeah.
Attack
Yeah.
squadrons, yes. So attack squadrons can only be affected by opposing effects and squadron upgrades. Okay, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that works.
that works. Matt Decker's now baller.
Yeah.
Gelnon is now super baller.
It's a good.
It clears up core. It clears up colo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good like because what we're finding right at competitive play is that your last 30 points were filled with either fighters or a shuttle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now both those strategies, well, shuttles are a lot worse, and fighters are a little bit worse. So that's going to free up some space for other maybe the Grissom has a place now.
Well,
Right.
but 30 points if the unnamed Vorcha is 23, then 30 points is the unnamed Vorcha with like core and 2 crew.
Excuse
essentially.
me.
Yeah.
At 30 points is Kempok's attack cruiser with who cares?
Sure, but that's still probably worse than a fighter at 30 points.
Depends how many cloak ships you have in your fleet, dude.
And it's certainly worse than the
A disruption
Quark
shuttle?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
about
worse
that.
than the disrupt. Well, I don't know, dude. Is DEFCON 1 whenever
It
you
depends.
want it, like, better than a disruption shuttle? DEFCON 1 whenever you want it is good.
If you're like a good ship that is decent, but can't have the captain skill you need it to. I mean, because Gen Con somewhere else, presumably, right? Which would get you under the 30. And then 2 other 50-point ships is exactly the fleet that a disruption shuttle wants to face. But if Kempek's going to be part of like a fleet of 4 other cloak ships, then yes, it might be better.
Right, and I think we talked about this. I think we're going to see, right now, I think the average number of ships in competitive play is 3.5, and I think we're going to see that number push into 4.5.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, you and I have different opinions on where the competitive scene is going.
Yeah.
As we've discussed.
So we're at 2.5 hours here, guys. This is turning into a giant episode. So let's.
Oh, maybe a 2-parter.
No.
No. I mean, when we actually, because it's being recorded, so we're going to release this as a podcast or whatever.
Yes, but
we're at the finish line.
We are. I mean, there are a couple of other things. The 1 per ship icon. Oh, no, we're not. We got a major thing to talk about still. All right.
Yeah,
advanced rules.
Well,
no. Advanced rules.
Tucker's favorite thing.
This is my favorite thing. Well, first of all, the little X icon is 1 per ship, as we thought. Okay, whatever. Advanced rules. Players may even combine captain cards, upgrade cards, admiral cards, etc. from multiple factions on the same ship if they are willing to pay the faction penalty, it's the same faction penalty. No more if all players agree. If you're playing with squadron building, you're playing with faction mixing. Goodbye, faction pure. Don't miss you.
I still
encourage people to play faction pure in friendly games, and have fun. Play error pure, mix it up with your friends. It should definitely still be part of the community.
Sure. But
I don't think it has a place in competitive play.
What's that guy who hunted down Valjean? Javert or Javert?
Javert. Javert.
Okay. I'm just... do you understand why I'm bringing that up, Tucker?
Yeah.
Listen, all I want is acknowledgement that that it is not like the official, you have to play this way.
But I think we've had that for quite some time. And
people kept pointing to the stupid if all players agree line, and they took it out. That's all I wanted. This is like Christmas come early for me.
Well, we got him. We finally got him.
All right.
But I think that this will lessen the number of faction peer discussions that are had on the group?
No, are you kidding?
I think it really should. Because I think it's like, hey, do whatever you want at home, but OPs are not restricted to faction pure.
Right. Okay. A couple of other changes. One is about...
Hang on, real fast. Going back to the rule of 3, I'm actually looking at the squadron point language more carefully.
Oh, boy.
And I'm looking at the second to last paragraph on page 24, right-hand column. And this is just faction penalty. Because it doesn't say paid +1, it's just pay 1 extra squadron point.
Yeah, but
so Verril's 9.
Right, yeah. So I'm just curious about.
I mean, I actually think this is a modifier and not a replacement, but sure.
Okay, enough said. Done. Move on.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Also, by the way,
that's going to be a conversation that carries on for a long time.
Also, by the way, in the squad building rules, they say each ship must include 1 and only 1 captain card. Fleet commander, LOL. But however, players can elect to not include a captain card and use a placeholder captain with an SP cost of 0 and a captain skill of 1 instead. So, in other words, generic captains are no longer required.
Yeah.
You can
Which is a fantastic change.
You can have them. You can, right? Like, the Borg especially care about their generic captains because they're drones. But...
Interesting. What about discard effects? So, could I...
You couldn't run prototype weapon without an actual physical generic captain.
No, I was thinking of this Kazon guy who kills the captain, or the Ferengi who kills the captain.
No, you don't have a captain to kill.
Right, so in that situation, you would want a generic captain, because then you would technically have a captain.
Right, and then that would be a case where you might, I never thought I'd say this, might be a case where you might want to madred a generic captain,
Yeah.
which is just insane.
Where are we reading this? Sorry.
Sorry, the generic captain thing.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3,
Look,
4,
on
5,
page 24,
6.
On page 24, it is the line immediately after the bolded squadron point text. So if you look the next line down, that's where it starts.
Note that
After
each
what?
ship
The
must,
bolded squadron. Oh,
Right.
yeah,
squadron
one,
point. Yeah.
it says squadron
Okay,
building,
okay.
third paragraph after the bolded language. Go to the completion of the etc. and then it starts with note, which is halfway through the paragraph.
Yeah, it just says you can fly without a captain card if you don't mind using a placeholder captain.
Well, and that's relevant because it goes along with, don't forget, those placeholder captains have faction symbols, right?
Right.
And you don't pay
Yeah.
a faction penalty on them either.
Right, and that's the thing, is that you don't get a faction, like you can't, if you don't have a placeholder captain card that's Klingon, right? DNA encoded messages on Elim Garak does nothing for you because you don't have a Klingon captain.
That's correct.
Right.
Anyway, we already talked about component limitations. There is a rule in here about sharing info in team games. If you care about team games, go read it. We don't.
And well, but it's not like, again, to speak to that, like you're starting up a community, right? Like it's nice clarity.
Oh
right?
yeah. It's
Yeah.
great. It's a great bonus, but it's not our purview. I'm sure David and Nick have something to say about that. We don't.
And so I think Joseph's very subtle hints throughout this entire episode is that Tucker needs to go start a new community in Los Angeles.
I'm trying. I actually stopped in literally last night. So last night we recorded a episode. Last night we recorded an episode that we have to scrap because we were talking about how the rules were going to be released in December. And I was late because I actually stopped at a game store on the way home from work. And I talked to them about Attack Wing. And they, by the way, if you are in Los Angeles, guys, Aero Hobbies over in Santa Monica Boulevard, cross street is Yale. Is it Yale? I think it's Yale. They're selling Attack Wing ships, buy two, get one free. And they have some old ships in there. They have a Gornaris if you don't have your lure yet.
Well,
So there you go. But yeah, no, I would love to start it back up. Are you kidding?
Okay.
So
Continuous permanent effects we covered. One per ship we covered.
Yeah, no, so this is it. I mean, we finished it off.
Okay.
So
Worf.
are we gonna talk? Are we gonna have the Worf discussion now?
yeah, I mean, we're all in agreement, right? Basically, I would say. So
Well, I have something interesting also to add to the Worf. The tournament rules have to be changed because the tournament rules have the old shuttle, and this comes to your point about the admiral because it's in the tournament rules mentioning admiral limitations.
Right, because you can put
on shuttles.
right
On
because
shuttles, yeah.
without that, right, you can put Admiral Q on a shuttle. There's no problem with that.
Right. So they absolutely have to amend the tournament rules. That's an absolute must.
So to clarify, because we've talked about this a lot, to anyone who will be listening to this, is that right now, there's a couple things. So there are certainly some rulings in Worf that you could say, okay, well, it's common sense that they should still apply. But then there's certainly some rulings in Worf where the rulings have been contradicted by this. I guess a perfect example to use is how at any time works. Mm-hmm. So clearly the intent is not for both of those, for the ruling on Worf and for this rule book to coexist because they say basically opposite things, right?
Right.
So I guess to jump to the bottom of the page, right? What works in Worf now and what works in the tournament rules is either has to be changed and doesn't work, may work, or we don't know that it works. So as good as these rules are here, I think Worf is still a more important document for understanding how the game works, which I don't think
For
acceptable.
For competitive players.
Yeah. Well, certainly for competitive players, but then
Oh
it's
man,
also
yeah, but I think with the OPs out there, you have to call every OP competitive, right? Because everybody immediately gets into some
well,
random argument. Not
and
everybody.
there's
It's unavoidable.
there's no like I know that if you try and like have a really strict interpretation of the rules, right? People will say that you're just trying to ruin the game, right? But like even to those people, let me say like it doesn't take one of us crazy villains to like say, okay, how does Captain Skill work? Look it up on Wharf and have a different idea than this rule book, and that to cause a problem at an OP, right? Like that's a pretty simple thing to happen, right?
Right. And my big takeaway from this is that they cannot just delete Worf.
Well,
Like
yeah, okay,
this rule
so
book is not so inclusive that Worf can just now go
the
away.
the step one of the problem is that they can't leave Wharf, and then
Right.
step two of the problem is exactly what you just said, Robert. If they delete Wharf, that creates huge problems because yes, this rule book doesn't incorporate all of the
The May
rulings.
ruling,
Yeah,
like for
there's nothing
example,
about the May
yeah,
ruling.
the Varel ruling,
Yeah, and then
possibly.
there are things that are like not intuitive, and it's totally within Worf's purview to say like this is how something works, right?
Right.
But like as soon as Worf disappears, that's not how it works anymore, right?
Right.
Like the argument that I had on the Facebook group and Steven brought up that old ruling was right. I said you're not equipping the weapon to the ship,
Hmm.
so you can put it under triphasic emitters, right? And then there was a ruling that says no, you're not allowed to put things you can't equip under triphasic emitters. Well, if Worf disappears, is that still true of triphasic emitters? I would say it's not. I think someone who is coming to those two cards would say it's not. But anyone who's familiar with that ruling that once existed is definitely going to think that it still applies, and they're not wrong necessarily, right?
Yeah, I would think they're wrong. I think the deletion of Worf would mean that everything with Worf went out. And who in the heck has cataloged Worf? So if they actually physically deleted it from their servers, what legacy exists of Worf?
Ben
That's true.
Chung's physical printed out list of Worf
Yeah, that's
rulings.
hilarious. His Bible.
Oh my god, it's so thick. It's like it literally is a book.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is because I mean I think there are problems both ways, but man, I want them to delete Worf and just go by this, and let's deal with the new problems as they come, right?
Yeah.
Instead of
Well,
being dragged down by the past. But what you're
yeah.
saying is that if they delete Worf, that's not enough. We have to go on a road trip to New
Well,
Jersey to get
yeah.
Ben's Worf rule
Yes.
and destroy it.
Okay, Ben,
We
we're
have
not
to
we're
break
not
into his house.
coming for Ben. All right, look. So
This is now
also,
this is
Ben,
now
Ben.
conspiracy.
Yes, we are.
Tucker, unless
Well, no, we're not
Tucker,
coming
unless
for
you
Ben.
all
We're coming
right.
for
the
his rule
police
book.
and
okay,
notify the police
I
of this
think
conspiracy, you were
I
dragged into it.
I think we've said
Yeah.
I think we've said enough on this. I think we've said enough. So
I'm saying I'm buying a pair of black gloves tonight for no apparent
oh
reason
my god.
to buy our
No,
conspiracy.
we're
So
we're
it is more than your
no, we're
You
done.
know it. Well, what's your opinion on this, Tucker? It echoes ours, I assume.
Uh, it's hard, right? Because I
I'm putting. I'm,
was I
I'm put,
was on the one hand, look, I think that these rules do a lot more for the clarity of the game than Worf does. On the other, I admit the rule of three needs clarification. I admit multiple Gen Cons needs clarification. But most of all, I was there when, I saw somebody today say the Borg octahedron is just not a good class of ship. And the answer is the Borg octahedron, the Queen Vessel Prime was the straw that broke the camel's back because it was what let you finally get enough. You could have 3 attack cancels per turn on one ship, basically. with Wayun and Varel and Lena. Or no, you know what it was? It was you could have Wayun, Varel, and Koss dispersion field on the same ship. And
it was spheres. You
no,
you could do
spheres.
that stuff on.
No, spheres you couldn't do it with because they didn't have
They
the
didn't have
second
the-
crew slot. The Queen Vessel Prime.
Yeah, because Croesus would steal them over.
Right.
The build existed. All this pre-existed.
The build existed, but you had to use. Well, no, but you couldn't use Croesus because that also took a crew slot.
Well, yeah. So I'm going to short circuit this.
My point is, we can't just get rid of everything that has made the game work for the past 4 years. Like, it just doesn't
But
work.
we're not, because the tournament rules are still going to be there. So they're going to clean up the tournament rules. So that's still in place.
But
so
I mean,
they're not...
you can't. I mean, are you going to get rid of the? Are you going to get rid of the May ruling?
Well, so that's my point. The tournament rules, which cover Borg movement and Borg attack, that's not going anywhere because that's part of the tournament rules. Tournament rules and war for two separate things.
Okay. Are you getting rid of the Koss errata? Are you getting rid of all the errata? What are you getting rid of?
Right. So that's the question.
I think there's a very obvious, like, if you delete Worf, you're going to take whatever the 10 or 15 things that you need and keep them. Like, you're going to keep the erratas. Like what?
And we're going to get a new Worf. That's unavoidable.
Yeah, and then Worf would still exist, but it would just start again, and hopefully be organized this time in like by card, right?
By card or by rule or something.
So you could just like, okay, I want to use this card, and then you could search it, click on it, and then you'd have every ruling that affected that card, right?
Yeah, that would be the hope. I mean, look. Ultimately, we can talk about it for the next 2 hours or whatever, but it's in WizKid's hands now, you know, and we need to see what they're going to do with it. We don't have a choice.
Okay, but I know, but what do you think they should do, and what do I think they should do? That's what we're discussing right now.
Look, I mean, I think, you know, you've made your views clear. Robert has made his views clear. My view is I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know that there is a good answer.
Okay, well, let me ask you this question: If Worlds was next week,
right,
and we had this rule book and we had all of Worf, what would we do? Like, how would we even begin to make sense of that?
Ask Ben and Rich, or who would be judging, because they've judged one of the two of them has judged every single Origins, what the rulings were at least a day in advance.
Okay, how do you? Okay, let me rephrase. I think that with them issuing, de facto rulings, we could get through the tournament. Mm-hmm. How would it be possible with this rules and Worf existing for anyone to build a fleet to bring to Origins that fulfilled the ideals of high strategic play that this podcast is about? You couldn't, right? It would just be a crapshoot.
The best guess you could do is, I mean, you'd have to message Ben and Rich on Facebook, but like the best you could do is you could assume that where Worf and this rulebook contradict, this rulebook is right because it's the most recent item. I mean, everything. And what? Yeah. And
what about things that Worf adds that this doesn't even discuss? What about the May ruling?
Well, here's what I'm saying. If there's no contradiction, then you go with the Worf thing. But if there is a contradiction, use whichever has the most recent timestamp. This has a timestamp of September 14th, 2017.
Technically October 25th, 2017, because it's not released yet.
No, the rulebook is released. The rulebook is released today. So
I guess that's true.
Right. And I mean, if Worf decides to listen to almost 3 hours now of this podcast and makes changes based on what we said, which I don't think will happen, those will have a timestamp of later.
They have
ears
everywhere. I don't know what 12 random people are listening to this and how many of those are asleep. I know Mike.
Actually, apparently, our peak live viewers was 18. Mm-hmm. God bless the 11 of you who are still with us.
Oh, yeah, I see 12, but how many of that are us?
I'm not. One of them might be. No, I'm on the main page. I don't think I'm on.
And just Michael Wells was asking questions, and I think until we get clarity on Worf, Tucker's right that Where there's a conflict, the new rulebook controls. Where there's not a conflict, warp controls.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucas sees 8 people. So we're
that's
bleeding. We're bleeding people. We got to stop.
That's
we
the
can't
best
lose
you
any
can.
more viewers.
That's the best you can do.
Yeah, it is.
Wait, we're losing
I would
Robert?
agree.
Robert
I
said
would
me
agree with
too.
that.
And I just made a joke about losing people. So I guess Robert's off. Robert Chess is tired of listening to us.
Robert Chess left like ages ago, dude. I don't know what you're looking at. Oh, there we go.
He's back.
Oh, hi, Robert. Sorry. I guess maybe you're one of those loyal 11. All right, well, look. So I do want to close with a little bit of other news from the WizKids Facebook page today. WizKids, you know what? I'm just going to... You guys talk about something else because I want to double check that this is right because it is hilarious if it's not. Hang on. Oh, shoot. I need to... Hang on.
Okay, well, he's doing that. So, Joseph, you and I have a different philosophical idea of where this game is going.
Right.
My idea is that we're going to see more ships on the board, like 4 to 5 ships, based on the point schemes we've seen so far, but you disagree with that. What do you think we're going to see?
Well, I do think that we will in some areas see an uptick of ships, but I think what I think is going to happen, unfortunately, is that there'll be less of a focus on attack, because with those extra ships on the board, that they take a lot longer to move. Initiative now is going to take longer, as I said. So the 60 minutes is going to be a lot less time than it was. And ships are also getting much better defensive abilities, with Cloak being back in action, with shield adaptation existing,
So
and Warp
what
Jump's
if-
still here.
Yeah, what if it goes to 75 minutes, which was, I guess that's the X-Wing model.
Well, I will say that that's what Peter thinks. Peter Smith thinks should happen. So I think that those 15 minutes do make a big difference. But the thing is, right? Like, there are virtually unkillable ships in X-Wing, right? So we're getting close to like having the right kind of of ratios, right?
Or conditions, yeah.
In Attack Wing now to make those kind of ships, and then X-Wing doesn't have anything like Warp Jump.
Right. Well, David Montgomery and I worked on a build that it was 2 ships and a shuttle, and each ship ended up with essentially 3 warp jumps. And I practiced that, and that fleet could stay alive for an hour. But I don't think that fleet could stay alive for an hour and 15 minutes.
That's right, yeah.
It's close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, some interesting and somewhat sad news. Also announced today was the Fall 2017 WizKids Open Series. And
well, since it's sad news, I'm going to make the trombone sound. Wah, wah, wah.
And they tell us we can compete in amazing games, HeroClix and Dice Masters.
For the fall, which is...
Well,
yeah, but I don't. The fall's not even leading into their world,
the fall,
right?
The Fall 2017 WizKids Open is a series of officially sponsored gaming events beginning November 4th. So fall is a little bit of a misnomer, but...
and so you're saying there's no there's no Attack Wing regionals.
Down at the very bottom of the page, there is an Attack Wing logo.
Well, there's always 2 sets of regionals, right? And Attack Wing has always been in the spring one anyway. So if they were going to do them again,
I guess that's true. They were in the fall 2014, so I always think of them as in the fall schedule. But I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
That was back in the day.
Yeah.
That was way back in the day.
Even when we had regionals, they were never in the fall. It was always a spring event.
No, we had regionals in the fall. I went to the one in Colorado in September, guys.
No, you're right.
The fall one?
There's been 2 years. The first year was at the end of summer. The fall, and then the next time they did it, it was in
spring.
Starting in January, I think.
Right. It was
end of January.
It was like winter. Yeah, it was winter to spring, and then the year after that, there were none. So hopefully, we'll be in spring again this year.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well,
And if they're not, I'm saying it right here. Fremont, California, will hold another unsanctioned regional.
I believe it.
We had a whole whopping 5 people show up.
And
I think we can do
maybe
better.
I'll even try having one down here. Wouldn't that be something? All right.
And on the same day, right?
No. So, on that note, I think we're going to call it for the night. We're approaching the 3-hour mark, and that seems like a reasonable place to stop. So, thank all of you for listening. Thank especially, God bless you folks that are still here. I don't know.
10 now. I saw David jump back in. Nick jumped in.
Yeah.
We might be at double digits, people.
And thank you to anyone on the East Coast, because you're the true heroes.
You are the. Oh my goodness.
Yeoman's work too, Joseph.
Yep.
Probably 2 feet in bed, right, and one eye shut.
Yep.
No, I'm going to the gym.
At 2 in the morning.
Take your dog.
Yeah, it's 24 hours.
All right. Well, Joseph's clearly the athlete. Anyway, all right. Thank you all for sticking with us. If you liked this, please let us know. So we're looking at doing more video things, more live things. We'd love to hear the feedback, what you think about this kind of show. If you like it, let us know. We really do hope to see you next time. But for now, dials down, and may Q be generous with your dice.
Peace out.